My best friend convinced me to buy the apartment right above hers. Moving day, a neighbor showed up at my door with her child in tears, begging for food from 100 households as a traditional blessing for her sick child. My heart went out to the little one. I gave her a bowl of rice without thinking much, but then the child was gone. The neighbor turned around and claimed my food had killed her child. Under my best friend's deliberate provocation, she pulled out a kitchen knife, chased after me, and stabbed me 13 times until I was dead. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn at the moment my neighbor came asking for a symbolic meal. My child is sick. It's a tradition from my hometown to ask neighbors for a symbolic meal to bring good luck. It's fate that we live in the same building. Please help us out. A woman stood at my doorstep, clutching her child and pleading desperately. The words sent a chill down my spine. They were hauntingly familiar. I pinched myself hard, just to make sure I had truly been reborn. On the very same afternoon in my past life, my neighbor had knocked on my door holding her child and said those exact words. Just like in our past life, my best friend Lydia did the same thing again. She called out to me in a hushed voice from the kitchen, "Elaine, come quick, I've dished up the food for you. Go ahead and take it to her." Even back then, I'd always felt sorry for sick children. Since Lydia said so, I didn't think twice about it. I took the bowl of rice and handed it to the neighbor who was going door to door for food. To my shock, the child later passed away, and the neighbor came to my door weeping and shouting accusations. They blamed my bowl of rice for their child's death. My dear friend Lydia didn't even try to help calm the situation, adding fuel to the fire. She said sarcastically, "Your child was born with a short life. Some things are just fate. Trying to extort money and profiting off your child's suffering, that's downright heartless. Do enough evil, and the consequences will fall on your children." She provoked the already emotionally unstable woman into a complete frenzy, pulled out a kitchen knife and chased after me, stabbing me 13 times until I was dead. Meanwhile, Lydia had already locked herself in a room right away. Even the calls to the police and emergency services were made by a kind neighbor. I was struck down to the ground, and as my blood slowly drained away, I lost my life in despair. "Elaine, come get your food. What are you spacing out for?" I snapped back to reality. I saw Lydia's anxious face in the kitchen. I said directly to the neighbor holding her child outside the door, "Look, ma'am, my good friend Lydia has such a kind heart. She even dished up a meal for you. She lives in this building too, so you must know each other, right?" Lydia's face turned pale, and she rushed up from the kitchen. She snapped angrily, "Elaine, Lily was asking for food from your place. Why did you have to bring me into this?" I looked at her, confused, and said, "But I wasn't planning to give her any food in the first place. That was your idea. In my past life, I gave her a bowl of plain rice, and she immediately turned around and claimed my food had killed her child. This time around, I'm certainly not going to be that foolish again." When Lydia heard I wasn't planning to give her any food, she immediately accused me. "Elaine, we're all neighbors. Lily is just asking for a bite of food for her child. How can you be so heartless?" I shook my head and said, "I don't know what illness the child has. If something goes wrong after they eat, who's going to take responsibility?" Lydia seemed even more agitated than Lily. "How could plain white rice possibly cause any problems?" "Elaine, how can you be so heartless?" I said coolly. "If you're so compassionate, why don't you go get the meal for Lily yourself? I'm not stopping you. This neighborhood is full of do-gooders like you. Finding 100 volunteers would be a breeze. As for me, I'd rather not get involved since I'm not one for stirring up trouble." With that, I promptly ushered her out the door. "Lydia, you'd better hurry home and cook something for Lily. I won't keep you any longer." The door slammed shut with a bang. Lydia pounded on the door from outside. "Elaine, are you out of your mind? Open the door, open it now. You have to get Lily's meal today. She's a kind-hearted person who's helped me before." I stared at the rattling security door, a chill running down my spine. In my past life, I never once doubted Lydia until the day I died. I thought her provoking words to the neighbor were meant to stand up for me. Now I'm certain she was deliberately trying to drive the neighbor crazy. We grew up together and have always been like sisters. When my parents died in a car accident during my college years, I considered her my only family left in the world, so she convinced me to buy an apartment in the complex where she was renting. I agreed without giving it much thought. Little did I know, I'd be brutally murdered at knife point less than a month after moving in. The masterminds behind it were none other than my best friend Lydia and her so-called kind, warm-hearted neighbor Lily. "Elaine, open the door right now. If you don't open up today, we're through." I refused to have such a heartless and cold-blooded friend. Lily tried to leave, but Lydia stopped her. "Lily, wait, I was the one who convinced her to buy an apartment in our building, so it's my responsibility to teach her that neighbors are more helpful than distant relatives. Today she must give Nora a proper meal from the community," Lily said anxiously. "If she won't give us any, we'll just ask someone else. What's the point of waiting here?" Lydia, if you feel awkward about it, you can give Nora a meal yourself. I won't hold it against you because of your friend. Lydia grew anxious too. Lily, Elaine is the first house you're asking for food from, with Nora so terribly ill. It's a bad omen if the first one refuses. Lily was convinced by her words. You're right, Lydia. She continued banging on the door together with Lydia. Elaine, open the door and get the food. Elaine, please help us, save my Nora. We're not asking for much, even just a spoonful of rice or a few grains would do, but I was determined not to open the door. No one's taking a single grain of rice from my house today. When those two saw I wasn't responding, they went from knocking to pounding on the door. Elaine, open the door. If you don't give Nora a bite to eat today, we're camping right here at your doorstep. I called the police right away. But even after the police arrived, they could only mediate the situation. They didn't actually cause me any real harm. The police criticized Lily for forcing others to help. Lily and Lydia readily admitted their mistakes. She even promised in front of the police that she wouldn't force me to provide meals anymore. Then she took the child and went back home. A voice message from Lydia came through. Elaine, what on earth is wrong with you? It's just a few grains of rice. I'm not asking you to pay for it. You just moved in, and you're already making enemies with your neighbors. How do you expect to live in this neighborhood from now on? I read the message and let out a cold laugh. They didn't take my money, but by accepting that bowl of rice, they could pin a murder charge on me. Look, Lily's husband just spoke up in the homeowners group chat. You haven't met him, have you? He's a fitness trainer, built like a tank and could knock someone out with one punch. If you've crossed his family, what are you going to do when he comes after you? Listen to me, take that rice, go apologize properly to Lily, and beg her whole family for forgiveness. We've been close friends for years, so I'll overlook you locking me out earlier. When the time comes, I'll put in a good word for you too. I opened the homeowners group chat I had just joined. At everyone, the new tenant in 1102 refused to help in an emergency. Watch out for this vicious woman. At 1102, you heartless bitch, you refused to share food and tried to harm my daughter. You better watch your back, I replied. Do we have gangsters in our neighborhood? I've screenshotted your threats as evidence. Lydia acts more like their relative than my best friend. The moment I sent the message, she immediately called me, furious and demanding an explanation. Elaine, you just had to go and piss people off, didn't you? Just you wait, you'll regret this soon enough. Don't say I didn't warn you. As your friend, I ignored Lydia. The harder she tried to link me to this mess, the more suspicious I became. She probably knew all along that Nora was terminally ill. That's why she went to such lengths to drag me into it. Once Nora succumbs to her illness, she can eliminate someone by proxy. I can't just sit around and do nothing. I made a couple of phone calls first, then unpacked the deliveries at home and bundled up the cardboard boxes. Suddenly, the door started banging again. I checked the video doorbell, and the screen showed a petite elderly woman. She pounded on the door. You little bitch, open up right now. We're doing you a favor by letting you cook for the neighborhood. Who the hell do you think you are? If Nora's mom hadn't come to you first for luck's sake, we'd have gone to someone else ages ago. You think we actually want a jinx like you? You heartless piece of trash. She spat a thick glob of phlegm at my door. You've got no conscience, you rotten-hearted scum. You deserve to burn in hell. Open this door now, or I'll make sure you're run out of this neighborhood. I ignored her, but the old hag just kept cursing outside the door. But why? I told you to play dead. If you don't come out, I'll smear filth on your door every day. Let's see how you dare show your face. Come nightfall, I'll go downstairs and tell everyone what a cheap whore you are. Giving you a scrap to eat was an act of mercy. Spurn that mercy, and you'll burn in hell with your tongue ripped out. I watched in horror as she spat thick globs of phlegm on my door, shaking with rage. Without a second thought, I dialed the police again, just to be safe. After calling the cops, I also reached out to a friend who's a coach at a martial arts club and asked her to come protect me for a few days. But this old lady clearly had plenty of experience pulling these kinds of stunts. The moment the police showed up, she plopped down on the ground wailing and sobbing. Officer, please, an old woman like me with one foot in the grave lives only for her family. My granddaughter has a life-threatening illness. She was already in her late 70s or 80s, and the police couldn't do anything about her. Any attempt to reason with her just made her burst into tears. They tried to reason with her son and daughter-in-law, who had rushed over. The couple bowed and scraped with apologetic smiles. Their attitude couldn't have been more obsequious. The police couldn't just arrest someone under these circumstances. They gave the family a few warnings and then left. The moment they were gone, the old hag tried to spit in my face, snarling, "How dare you call the cops on me?" Good thing I was prepared and shut the door in time. The old woman sneered menacingly. "Just you wait, you little brat. This isn't over. If you don't give me food, I'll come back every single day. My Sonda coach frowned and said, "You can't mess with troublemakers like her. She'll just throw herself on the ground and try to extort you." The Sonda coach asked with a worried expression, "So what's your plan then?" I checked the security feed and saw the old hag tossing some stinky socks, God knows where she got them, right at my doorstep. She's gotta eat, drink, and use the bathroom eventually. The Sonda coach shook his head repeatedly. "This isn't the way to handle it. You're the one who'll lose out, stuck in a standoff with someone who doesn't even have a job to go to." The old woman let out a cold, mocking laugh right at my front door. Of course I knew this wasn't going to work. In the evening when I saw a crowd downstairs, I grabbed the cardboard and went down with my Sonda coach. I hadn't walked far before an elderly person approached me asking for recyclables. I was just about to speak. Lydia suddenly rushed over from out of nowhere. She confronted me furiously. "Elaine, why aren't you answering my messages? Is this how a good friend acts? I brought a gift specially to celebrate your housewarming, and you didn't even let me stay for a meal. You just kicked me out." As soon as she said that, people nearby started gathering around. A burly man pointed at me and said, "That's the woman. She just moved into our neighborhood today. My daughter is sick, and we wanted to follow our hometown tradition of asking 400 family rice to bring good luck." Not only did she refuse, she even cursed my daughter to die soon. That disgusting old woman from outside my door came running over, slapped her thigh, and shouted at the top of her lungs, "This woman looks all seductive and shady. You can tell she's not respectable at all, neighbors. Just think, what could someone so young possibly do to earn enough to buy a multi-million-dollar house?" Another old woman nodded in agreement. "Exactly, she looks downright improper with all that makeup, dressed like a brazen hussy." The evening crowd was bustling. Hearing this family's remarks, people immediately started pointing at me and whispering, "If she didn't want to help, fine, but cursing someone's child, that's downright heartless. What did the child ever do to her? How vicious. That sharp chin just screams ruthless." The woman from the news recently who was killing stray cats and dogs looks just like her, torturing and killing stray animals. That's downright psychopathic. Experts say people like that are bound to turn to murder eventually. The crowd closed in around me, getting more and more worked up. If she actually ends up killing someone, our neighborhood's property values will plummet. Absolutely not. Property values have already taken a nosedive these past few years. If you ask me, we can't let that troublemaker stay in our neighborhood. Even the old lady who usually asks me for cardboard boxes backed away in fear, exclaiming, "Good heavens, I wouldn't touch that filthy business with a 10-foot pole. If she's really making dirty money selling herself, there's no way we can allow her in our community. She'll ruin our reputation." Exactly, slap that shameless vixen, call the cops and have her arrested. Prostitution is illegal these days. I glanced around and saw Lydia standing at the back of the crowd, her gaze icy. The old woman and her son both wore smug expressions. Their voices grew louder and louder, condemning me without even letting me say a word. As the argument heated up, some even looked ready to throw punches. I stepped up onto the edge of the fountain and slammed the cardboard in my hand down onto the ground. It landed with a dull thud. I looked down at the crowd, pulled out my phone and started recording. "Whoever accused me of prostitution, step forward and say it again. I'm recording this, and I'll call the police right now to investigate. If I haven't done anything illegal, I'll hire a lawyer to sue for defamation." The crowd was immediately silenced by my response. I glared at the two old women who started the rumors. "If someone in your family has a criminal record, your sons and grandsons can forget about civil service exams or military service. Since you all know I have money, go ahead and test me. I'm not afraid to spend it on lawyers. Anyone who spreads these vile rumors will face a lawsuit. I won't accept settlements or compensation. I'll make sure the slanderers end up in jail." I finally let out a sigh of relief. The two old women lowered their heads. Everyone fell silent, not daring to make a sound. Nora's dad clenched his fist, as big as a bull, and growled, "Who the hell do you think you're scaring?" My Sonda coach was no pushover either. In 2 moves, he had the guy's arm twisted behind his back. "Who do you think you're trying to intimidate?" The fitness trainer might look intimidating because of his size, but when it comes to actual fighting, he's no match for a Sonda coach. He gritted his teeth without making a sound, but his face was contorted with pain. The others didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I scanned the crowd with my eyes and said, "I just moved in today. Their child supposedly got sick and came to my place begging for food, but I have no idea what illness the kid has or if they can eat just anything. If I give them food and something goes wrong, who's going to take responsibility?" So I refused. I stared straight at Lydia and said, "I've been scammed before for giving someone food, and since then I don't give anything to anyone. It's not illegal to refuse food, is it? This family came to my house trying to hit me and curse at me, then threaten me in the group chat, and now the mother and child are spreading lies about me in public. Tell me, folks, if I gave food to people like this, would it end well?" The old woman finally snapped and started cursing. "That's a load of crap. Our family asking you for help was doing you a favor, you low-life scum, how dare you?" Her outburst only proved that I was right all along. This family is nothing but trouble and completely unreasonable. Just then, a neighbor from the residence group spoke up in my defense. The young lady was afraid of causing trouble and didn't want to give in, but this guy even threatened in our group chat that he'd make her pay. She did way more than just threaten. That old lady blocked their doorway and hurled insults far filthier than that. She even spat on their door. I live right across from the girl, and I saw it all. The crowd erupted in an uproar. What? They made themselves sound so pitiful, but it turns out their family are the real troublemakers. That's terrifying. You really don't want to get involved with people like that. Once they latch onto you, it's nothing but endless trouble. The old woman and her son's faces fell dark with anger. The old woman's eyes darted, then she slumped to the ground wailing, "Heavens, are you blind? Why didn't you strike this old bag of bones instead of my poor Nora?" The crowd watched her crying, face streaked with tears and snot, and felt a pang of pity. They also considered that it was all for the sake of their granddaughter. At least he's not the type who favors sons over daughters. My heart softened a little again. That old woman can play both the sweet and tough act. I saw her in action when the police showed up, not surprised at all. It was my dear friend Lydia. She stood outside the crowd, watching me decisively clear my name in an instant, the smug look in her eyes fading away. Seeing me look at her, she quickly made her way through the crowd to my side. "Elaine, are you okay?" I replied coldly. "Didn't you see everything?" Lydia didn't seem to mind my attitude at all, looking genuinely concerned as she said, "Thank goodness you made it through safely. When I saw those people pointing and yelling at you, I was so scared I didn't know what to do. I was worried sick about you. I couldn't be bothered to keep up the act with her any longer. I've just finished moving and have a lot to take care of, so I'm heading back now." This time, I managed to get rid of my cardboard boxes without a hitch. I even got a bunch of exaggerated compliments from the elderly folks. "This young lady is so warm-hearted." Absolutely, you can tell she's kind-hearted just by how she gathered up all the cardboard and brought it down to give away. My popularity in the neighborhood shot up overnight. Before the people I hired with good money could report back any useful information, an auntie from the building next door came looking for me. She pulled me aside and whispered mysteriously, "Elaine, that Lydia from the third floor claims to be your close friend. You don't seem like that kind of person to me. You should stay away from her from now on. Be careful, or she might end up causing you trouble." I quickly grabbed a handful of the cherries I'd just bought and handed them to her. "Auntie, last time she pulled me aside here to stand up for Kevin's family, I could tell something was off. I just didn't know why." "Auntie, do you know something?" The aunt nodded eagerly. "Exactly. What kind of friend acts like that? She deliberately says strange things in front of everyone to make people misunderstand you." "Elaine, I bet you had no idea. Your so-called best friend is someone's mistress." I looked shocked. "What? The man she's seeing is that Kevin who gave you trouble last time," I said in disbelief. "Auntie, really? Lydia and I grew up together. She's not that kind of person." The aunt shook her head. "It's true. I was digging through the trash for cardboard one time and saw them making out under the pomegranate tree with my own eyes. Later, other elderly folks in the neighborhood spotted them too. I bet old lady Mabel from Kevin's family already knows. She's sharp as a tack." The aunt sighed and added, "The only one in the family who doesn't know is Kevin's wife. Nora's seriously ill, and as a mother, she's heartbroken and overwhelmed. She doesn't have the energy to keep tabs on the household. Kevin and his mother are downright despicable. Their child is in such a state, and yet they still have the nerve to carry on an affair. I'm actually not surprised by this news. Once it's confirmed that Lydia genuinely wants me dead, the reasons are pretty much limited to a few possibilities. In our past life, she provoked Nora's mom into killing me. The outcome was inevitable. Nora's mother is either going to prison or facing the death penalty. Either way, she's definitely going to have to step aside for her. I can even guess that Lydia knows all about my assets." Seeing that I didn't react, both my parents are gone, and my relatives live far away. We've hardly been in touch over the years. After I die, given Lydia's connection to me and the relentless persistence of Kevin's mother and son when they make a scene, it won't be hard for them to get their hands on all my money. When I first came back to life, I realized Lydia had deliberately tried to kill me, and I couldn't figure out why. Looking back now, she had more than enough reason to want me dead. My aunt warned me repeatedly, "Stay away from Lydia from now on. If Nora's mom finds out about their scandal and makes a scene, you could get dragged into the mess just by being close to her. Even if Nora's mom doesn't find out, so many people in the neighborhood know about their affair. If you're seen with Lydia, you'll definitely become the subject of gossip." I nodded in agreement to my aunt's well-intentioned advice, but stay away from Lydia. In my past life, She caused my tragic death and her scheme succeeded. This time, her first plan failed, yet she's using her status as my best friend to try every possible way to turn me against Kevin's family. Of course I'm not just going to distance myself from her like that. She got off way too easy. Speak of the devil, another message from Lydia just came through. I'm so sorry, Elaine, I was completely in the wrong these past couple of days. And I know I messed up. Please forgive me. Come over to my place for dinner tonight. I've bought all kinds of nice ingredients, and I want to apologize to you properly in person. You have to come, okay? I glanced at the message and let out a cold laugh. What a coincidence. After returning home, the person I'd paid handsomely got back to me with the information. The kind-hearted lady was pretty much spot on with what she told me. Not long after moving in across from Kevin's family, Lydia hooked up with him. Soon after, she started relentlessly pushing me to buy a place in this neighborhood. Last month, I finally gave in to her persuasion and bought a house here. The Sonda coach asked me, "So what's your plan now? Calling the cops?" Of course I'm not calling the police. Even when Mabel blocked my door, nothing happened. What's the point of reporting it now? Lydia won't face any consequences. It would only make her wary of me. I was looking at the messages on my phone. After sending that message inviting me to her place for dinner and seeing that I hadn't replied, Lydia sent several more messages, reminiscing about how we grew up together and how close we've always been. She even sent some old photos of us together. She was really pulling out all the stops to get me to come over, but now that I've figured out her intentions, it sends chills down my spine. I replied to Lydia, "Let me see what delicious food you bought. If it's not my favorite, I won't be happy." She replied instantly, "Elaine, you're finally talking to me. Don't worry, I bought your favorites, seafood, hairy crabs, and durian." When I arrived at her place, she was incredibly warm and welcoming. "Get me something to eat and drink, and you owe me an apology, Elaine. I'm so glad you came. You know I've always been soft-hearted since I was a child, and I adore kids. Nora is so young and has such a serious illness. I just felt so sorry for her and got too worked up. That's why I acted that way toward you. I'm really sorry. Can you forgive me this time?" I smiled and said, "I was wrong too. If I didn't want to agree, I shouldn't have just shut you out like that." I clearly saw a flicker of mockery flash through Lydia's eyes as I said that, but not a trace of it showed on her face. "So we're good, still best friends from now on?" I nodded. "Of course, we grew up together, and with my parents gone, you're the closest family I have in this world." Lydia said with a laugh, Yes, we're going to be best friends for life." I nodded. She prepared a whole table of my favorite dishes and brought out a bottle of Huangjiu. This is a specialty from my friend's hometown. That region is famous for its Huangjiu. I paid her to bring some back for me. "Want to try it together tonight?" By the time my attitude toward her had returned to almost what it was before, I was tipsy and clinging to her arm. Lydia finally revealed her true intentions. She went into the room, pulled out a few sheets of paper, placed them in front of me, and leaned on my shoulder affectionately, saying, "We're the closest of sisters, with no other family left. I've already decided, when I die, everything I have will go to you. Look, Elaine, I've made a will. If I hadn't already died once and seen Lydia's true colors, had she done this, I would have been deeply moved and done the same for her. Thank heavens, I've been given a second chance at life." I pretended to be touched. "Lydia, you're too kind to me. Don't worry. I'll see a lawyer tomorrow to notarize my will. Everything I own will be yours when I'm gone." Then I stood up and said, "I'm feeling a bit lightheaded from the drinks. I'm heading back to bed now. See you tomorrow, Lydia." Without giving her a chance to respond, I took her will, got in the elevator, and went back home. "Lydia, you brought this on yourself. I figured it out not long after moving here. Nora and her daughter are truly pitiful. Kevin is downright inhuman. Kevin always uses work and making money as an excuse to avoid taking Nora to the hospital. Mabel claims she's too old for hospitals and avoids helping, citing superstitions. Every time, it's Lily alone who runs around the hospital with the child and stays by their bedside. She's away from home for long stretches. This gave Kevin the opportunity to cheat on Lydia. The two of them grew increasingly brazen. Before I moved in, they would sometimes meet at Lydia's place or Kevin's family home, and they even became bold enough to openly show affection in the neighborhood at night. They were spotted by many elderly folks who collect recyclables. After I moved in, the two of them toned it down a lot. The reason was obvious. Lydia was afraid that if I found out she was the other woman and cut ties with her, she wouldn't be able to kill me and take over all my assets. I figured out the reason, and it made me sick to my stomach. I've been deliberately seeking out Lydia every single day lately. She thinks I've already had my will notarized by a lawyer, and she's just waiting for Nora to die so she can turn Lily against me and take us both down together. That would complete her plan. Naturally, she doesn't turn me away and treats me with overwhelming kindness. but that meant she lost any chance to get intimate with Kevin. I was counting the days. My paid informant at the hospital reported that Nora had received multiple critical condition notices. I knew the moment was almost ripe. After getting everything settled here, I told Lydia, "I'll be away on a business trip for 2 days. When I get back, I'll bring you that bag you've been wanting." Lydia was over the moon. "Just let me know when you're coming back. I'll pick you up and cook your favorite meal." I had just gotten into the car to the airport when my phone buzzed with a new message. As soon as she confirmed I'd left, Lydia immediately invited Kevin over to her place. Nora at the hospital was already gone. Lily took her daughter's body home. The person following Lily called me. "She's about to go upstairs. Her mother-in-law is coming down. Do you want to see? I'll video call you." I agreed without hesitation. When the video call connected, Mabel was screaming. According to our hometown customs, a stillborn child like Nora should be left on the mountainside. What were you thinking bringing her home, trying to curse an old woman like me to death? "Get out of here, you're nothing but bad luck." Lily, with disheveled hair and a numb expression, replied, "Mom, since you refused to go to the hospital, I had to bring her home so you and Nora's father could see her one last time." Mabel spat angrily, spraying saliva as she yelled, "What's there to see? At my age, being near the dead is bad luck. Don't you know that? I think you're nothing but a jinx trying to bring harm to me. If you ever want to step foot in this house again, take Nora to the remote mountains and leave her there, just like our customs say. Otherwise, when Kevin gets home from work, I'll have him teach you a lesson." The elderly folks downstairs could only shake their heads in disapproval. That poor mother just lost her child, her own granddaughter, and instead of showing any grief, she's speaking so harshly. Others whispered among themselves, "She's probably afraid her son's dirty secret will get back to his wife." Those two have no shame at all. They were making out under the trees in the neighborhood as early as 7 or 8 p.m., acting like Lily doesn't even exist, even after the community meal incident. I still saw them holding hands. "It's just disgusting," someone yelled out. Exactly, his own daughter's gone and he doesn't even go see her, too busy cheating with that mistress across the hall. "Kevin's a real piece of work." Lily clutched her child tightly and hurried toward the elevator with her head down. Mabel snapped, reaching out to grab her, "You jinx, are you deaf? Can't hear me talking? Go dump that little brat on the mountain right now." Lily suddenly stopped in her tracks, turned around, and glared daggers at the old woman, a look that could kill. Mabel collapsed to the ground in terror, muttering to herself, Are you going to eat me? How dare you treat your mother-in-law like this? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" She didn't dare reach out to stop her again, and Lily ignored her, turning away to carry the child upstairs, her footsteps quickening. I seized the moment to call my Sonda coach. "Could you please go to Lydia's place? I left an important contract there. Could you find it and bring it to me?" She agreed without hesitation. Everyone in the video quickly followed Lily into our building. Kevin's family lived on the 3rd floor, and we got there in no time. Lily went upstairs and headed home first, while the others trailing behind, especially her mother-in-law, seemed to regain their energy and started scolding her again. "Lily, you jinx, have you lost your mind? Just you wait until Kevin gets back. He'll make you pay for this. I'm telling you for the last time. Take Nora and dump her on the mountain. That's our family tradition. Do you hear me?" Lily suddenly snapped, screaming at the top of her lungs, "What a load of crap. My Nora is gone." Mabel jumped up in a rage. "I'm your mother. How dare you talk to me like that?" She lunged forward, trying to grab Lily by the hair. She dodged out of the way, seeing that the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were about to come to blows. Everyone stepped in to intervene. "Mabel, your daughter-in-law just lost her baby. As a mother, she's heartbroken. Please don't make things worse." "Exactly. What good will it do to push her over the edge? You're just an old woman. Do you really think you can take her in a fight? You'd definitely be the one getting hurt." As we spoke, my coach had already taken the elevator down to the 3rd floor and was knocking on Lydia's door. Mabel, too angry to hold back, rushed over like a gust of wind. "Who are you? What are you knocking for?" My coach shot back just as sharply, "Who are you? I'm not knocking on your door." Mabel was at a loss for words. My coach has a tan complexion, short hair, and is all muscle, clearly not someone to mess with. Mabel is the type who bullies the weak but fears the strong, so she didn't dare throw a tantrum. The coach continued knocking on the door. Lydia, are you there? Elaine sent me to pick up the contract. It's urgent. Could you please open the door?" There was still no movement from behind the door. Before anyone realized it, everyone had gathered in the hallway. Lily was among them. Everyone watched as the coach knocked with no response, then entered the passcode to unlock the door. The living room was empty, but from the direction of the bedroom, everyone could hear suggestive sounds through the door. Each sound grew louder than the last. Everyone's first instinct was to look at Lily. She kept her head down, her hair covering her face. making it impossible to see her expression. My coach remained unfazed and said, "I'll go look for the contract." She easily found the document folder on the back of the living room sofa. After calling me to confirm it was indeed the contract, she left Lydia's house. Surprisingly, Lily also turned around and left without saying a word. Mabel immediately regained her confidence and snapped, "Smart move. You only gave birth to a worthless burden, and a short-lived one at that. If you dare make a scene, I'll have Kevin divorce you and find a fresh young bride instead." The noises from the bedroom grew increasingly loud, making everyone present blush with embarrassment. The others couldn't bear to listen any longer. They all scattered in a hurry. Someone muttered under their breath that Lily was far too tolerant. They didn't even catch them in the act. And yet they just walked away. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was also wondering if maybe nobody was there to stir things up and provoke her this time. After I got back from my business trip, Lydia still treated me like a fool. She knew my coach had been to her place, and said to me shyly, "I've been seeing someone, and things are going really well. He's dealing with some family matters lately, but once things settle down, I'll have him take us out to dinner so you can meet him." I guess that was her way of explaining. I didn't press for any details. Seeing that I didn't react strangely, she went on with her plan confidently. "Nora passed away, and Lily is absolutely heartbroken. She's still holding a grudge over that time you didn't bring her the community potluck. Let's get some nice gifts and go comfort her together, so she can let go of her misunderstanding about you. How does that sound?" I gave her a long, deep look, even though she tried hard to hide it. I still caught that fleeting glimmer of excitement in her eyes, so I nodded and said, "All right." She nearly jumped for joy. "Then I'll go buy the gifts and set a time. I don't have any objections either." I glanced at that sentence in my phone's memo. In Lydia's eyes, everything was going according to her plan. Soon, she would have everything, especially since I proactively suggested we could move up the timing to comfort Lily. Under these circumstances, it's hard for Lydia not to get carried away. We scheduled to visit Lily the afternoon of the day after tomorrow, but the next afternoon, right after I woke up from my nap, I suddenly heard terrifying screams coming from downstairs. Help, murder. When I came downstairs, Kevin, stark naked, was already slashed and lying in a pool of blood, unable to get up. Lily was brandishing a blood-dripping cleaver, chasing after Lydia, who was also completely naked. She was already slashed and bleeding, screaming all the way, "Help, somebody save me." Her eyes lit up when she saw me, as if I were her lifeline. "Elaine, help me." She rushed toward me. I pretended to be frantic and ran toward her as well. Unfortunately, the frantic Lily was incredibly fast. To make matters worse, Lydia wasn't wearing shoes and stumbled after just a few steps. Lily lunged forward, grabbing her by the hair while bringing the cleaver down hard across Lydia's face with her other hand. She let out an ear-splitting scream of agony. Help." I called the police while rushing over, shouting, "Someone help, quick." Lily was swinging a meat cleaver, blood splattering everywhere, and no one dared to intervene. Among those who came to see what was happening, I was the only one who could speak. The others were too terrified to utter a word, and some even collapsed to the ground. It never even crossed our minds to call for an ambulance. In that brief moment of hesitation, Lydia was slashed another 7 or 8 times. She was covered in blood, unable to even cry out. Lying on the ground, she stared at me with desperate, pleading eyes. My Sonda coach finally arrived and wrestled the cleaver from Lily's hands. By the time the police and ambulance arrived, Kevin had already stopped breathing. There was no chance of saving him. Lydia survived and was rushed away in an ambulance for emergency treatment. I watched the ambulance doors close and breathed a huge sigh of relief. Kevin and Lydia were caught in the act by Lily, who then attacked them. One was killed, the other severely injured. Her mother-in-law, Mabel, was absolutely terrified by the murder scene. Ever since then, he's been a bit out of his mind, constantly muttering about finding his son. Lydia wasn't killed on the spot. While somewhat unexpected, it's hard to deny it was a crueler form of retribution. The cleaver mangled her face, leaving several horrifying scars that left her permanently disfigured. His right arm was also maimed by the blade. Lily was diagnosed with a severe mental illness and has been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. No one has covered Lydia's medical expenses. She came to me just like before. "Elaine, we've always been like sisters. Now that I'm in this state, you've got to help me." I scoffed. "Help you? You were cheating with Kevin even before Nora from Lily's family died of illness, and you kept at it after losing the child. Why would I help someone as disgusting as you?" Lydia froze. "What did you say?" I said coldly, "Did you really think I didn't know what you were up to? Everything that's happening now is the consequence of your own actions. You've made your bed, now lie in it. That's what they call divine justice." She screamed. "You knew, Elaine. It was you who ruined me, wasn't it? I'm going to the police to have you arrested and executed." But without evidence, the police wouldn't believe her. As for public opinion, Lydia, the mistress, moved in right across from the legal wife. Right after the couple's child died, she and the cheating husband couldn't resist their affair, driving the wife to a murderous rage on the spot. This scandal has been the talk of the town for a while now. Lydia was fired by her company while she was still in the hospital. Not a single person came to visit her. Her reputation in the neighborhood was equally tarnished. Who would believe what she says? It would be a kindness just to see her without spitting or cursing her for deserving it. Lydia was screaming at me in the hospital so fiercely that even the doctors and nurses tried to avoid her. Her hospital stay drained all her savings, and with no other options, she came to beg me for help, but I had already handed the house over to an agent, willing to sell it at a low price just to get it done quickly. I had already sold my house before the murder took place. She has no way of finding my current address. I've blocked her number, so I ignore her voice calls. She can only message me. Elaine, I was wrong, I got too greedy, and I'm so sorry. I've been awful, rotten to the core, but I'll change, I promise. Please, you have to help me. I can't go on without you. Serves you right for not being able to go on living. I kept her on WeChat on purpose, just waiting for this day to come. From now on, my life will only get better and better, and I'm her only lifeline. I knew she couldn't find a job and had to scavenge for scraps just to survive. I knew she had no place to live and was forced to sleep in underground passages. I knew she was sick, with no money for medicine, and had to tough it out. I knew her situation was getting worse by the day. The last time I heard from her, I had just finished renovating my new home in another major city and was preparing to move in. Elaine, I know you hate me for being ruthless and trying to harm you, but after all these years as sisters, I'm dying. Can you come see me one last time? Bury me, everything I have will be yours after I'm gone. I smiled faintly. When she saw I hadn't replied, she started cursing again. Elaine, you're so wicked. May you die a horrible death and burn in hell. I smirked mockingly. This time, I blocked her without hesitation, because whether she's alive or dead, there's no reason for us to ever speak again. She doesn't deserve to be part of my life anymore. I'm moving forward to a brighter future. Story 2. In my past life when the sect chose spirit beasts, I formed a bond with a pitiful white crane. Little did I know its true form was the divine phoenix Silas, destined to reclaim divinity once healed. For this, I braved countless dangers alone, seeking celestial treasures to restore its glory, yet upon regaining godhood, it shattered our pact that very day, leaving me to perish from the backlash. As I wailed in agony, he devoutly locked lips with his junior sister, reborn into this life. A snow-white reindeer clamped its teeth onto my sleeve. The white crane, its feathers plucked bare, screeched in outrage. You can't reject me, I'm the divine bird Silas, senior sister. What's wrong? Wake up, please. A worried voice snapped me back to consciousness, and my eyes flew open. The agony of the forcibly severed bond still lingered as I smiled reassuringly at my junior, drenched in cold sweat. The surroundings felt eerily familiar. I'd somehow returned to the very day of the spirit beast selection ritual. The path of mortal cultivation is long and arduous, with no shortcuts to rely on. Thus, ancient masters devised the method of forming pacts with spirit beasts to enhance their power. This allows cultivators to train in harmony with their bonded beasts without defying the heavenly Tao. Hence, every decade the sect carefully prepares a selection of spirit beasts nearing metamorphosis for Foundation establishment disciples to choose. 1. In my past life, my junior sister beat me to it and chose a majestic grey wolf. When my turn came, a severely injured, featherless white crane with only one leg caught my eye. My heart went out to it, so I chose the crane as my spirit beast. The junior disciples nearby all tried to dissuade me. Senior sister, this crane Stantian is shattered and cultivation lost. It's beyond recovery. Choosing him won't aid you. He'll only be dead weight. I shook my head, telling them with conviction that even without a spirit beast, I could still make my mark. Only after cleansing the bloodstains and healing its wounds did I learn from the crane's own words. It was no ordinary bird, but the divine Silas. By reforging its core and restoring its strength, we could return this deity to its rightful throne. From that moment, I began traversing countless perilous realms alone, seeking rare celestial treasures. I suffered grievous wounds time and again, even regressing in cultivation, all this just to restore him completely. Yet on the very day he regained his divinity, he callously severed our sacred bond without hesitation. My body couldn't withstand the backlash, every meridian shattered. As consciousness faded, I saw him tenderly lift my junior sister, sealing their devotion with a reverent kiss. Then with a casual gesture, he summoned divine flames that consumed our entire sect. The memory of those agonized screams makes me wish I'd carved those bastards into 1,000 pieces right then. Taking a deep breath to suppress my anger, I hurried to the beast selection grounds with my junior brother. The moment we landed, a snow-white reindeer emerged before us. Its breathtaking beauty instantly captivated everyone's attention. What's more astonishing was its noble elegance and the powerful spiritual energy radiating from its entire being. It stood out like a sore thumb among the surrounding spirit beasts. I couldn't help but fall into reminiscence. Did this reindeer appear here in my past life? Before I could reach any conclusion, the reindeer walked straight up to me and tugged at my sleeve with its teeth. I gasped. "You wish to form a spiritual pact with me?" His nod sent immediate ripples of excitement through the crowd. Truly worthy of being our sect's most promising senior disciple, to have such a formidable spirit beast willingly choose her. The reindeer nuzzled gently against my wrist, filling my heart with tenderness. Without hesitation, I addressed my master. "Master, I wish to form a spiritual bond with this reindeer." "Excellent. This reindeer possesses abundant spiritual energy and remarkable innate talents. Since it has willingly chosen you, this must be fate's design." My master beamed at me, thoroughly pleased with my decision. Gazing at his kind face, I felt my eyes grow moist with emotion. In my past life, I suffered backlash, yet my master risked his own life trying to save me. Little did we know, he couldn't save me, and perished himself in the divine flames. In the end, not a single soul from our sect of thousands survived. This time, I've sworn to protect them all, no matter what. I won't let anyone get hurt because of me again. Just then, an ill-timed voice rang out, "Ria, you mustn't form a covenant with him." The crowd turned toward the sound, but found nothing, until a sharp-eyed junior disciple pointed at a bloodied, dying one-legged white crane in the corner and said, "Was that the one who just spoke?" The crowd erupted in murmurs. "What does he mean? How dare he say our senior sister can't form a pact with the celestial stag? Look at this filthy, stinking wreck barely clinging to life. Don't tell me he's actually lusting after our senior sister too, a toad lusting after swan flesh. Can't even see what a pathetic creature he is. Patchy feathers would be bad enough, but he's even a crippled one-legged freak. Disgusting." The white crane flapped its wings weakly at these words, fixing me with pitiful, pleading eyes. "Ria, you can't choose him. You're supposed to pick me. I am the divine phoenix Silas. Once my wounds heal and I reclaim my godhood, we shall become cultivation partners, never to part again." A cold laugh echoed in my heart. To think this bastard got reincarnated too. No matter, since he remembers his past life as well, my vengeance shall be all the sweeter. His words drew a chorus of mocking laughter. "What? This cripple dares claim he's the divine bird Silas? What a joke. He should look at himself before spouting such nonsense. He might not even survive till tomorrow, yet he dares spin such lies." Amidst the murmuring crowd, only our master sensed something amiss and stepped forward to investigate personally. After a long pause, he frowned and said, "This white crane's bloodline is truly extraordinary, likely no ordinary spirit beast. Ria, perhaps you should reconsider. Or you could form contracts with both." I averted my eyes in disgust, ready to refuse, when the reindeer beside me suddenly nudged my hand with its antler. "Don't pick him, he's just a useless loser. You already have me. How could you make a contract with someone else?" Looking into his teary, aggrieved eyes, I helplessly patted his head, then immediately refused. "No need, master, this disciple is content with just one reindeer. What's the use of special lineage? This crane's dantian is shattered, cultivation ruined. If unrecoverable, he'll remain a worthless cripple forever." "What, Ria, how could you say that? You used to care for me most." Levi flapped his wings anxiously, struggling to fly to my side, but his injuries were too severe. He barely managed to rise a few feet before crashing back down with a thud, knocked unconscious. The onlookers burst into laughter at his ridiculous display. Seeing his pitiful state filled me with grim satisfaction. In my past life, I gave him everything, yet he betrayed me without hesitation, destroying not just me but our entire sect. Yet in this lifetime, he's the one actively coming to pester me. What the hell is he doing? Has he lost his damn mind? Shouldn't he be rushing into his junior sister's arms right now to live happily ever after with her? At that moment, junior sister Cynthia threw herself forward and pulled Levi into her embrace without hesitation. "Master, he looks utterly pitiful. As your disciple, I cannot stand by and watch him perish. I'm willing to form a spiritual pact with him and heal his wounds." The master glanced at the visibly displeased grey wolf beside her and said hesitantly, "Cynthia, you've already chosen your contracted spirit beast. You mustn't go back on your word so lightly. Besides, this white crane is gravely injured. You might not even be able to." Cynthia cut him off with visible irritation. "Master, both senior sister and I are your disciples. Why must you show such blatant favoritism? You just permitted her to contract two spirit beasts simultaneously, yet deny me the same privilege. Are you reserving all the best resources for her alone?" These words made everyone present visibly uncomfortable. "Junior sister Cynthia, our master clearly has your best interests at heart. How could you twist the truth like this? Have you even considered the difference in cultivation? Senior sister can handle 2 spirit beasts without fear of backlash, could you? This gray wolf was originally meant for senior sister. It's incredibly powerful. You're barely managing with 1 contract, yet you're still being greedy after getting such a bargain. The crowd kept piling on their criticisms, showing no consideration for Cynthia's dignity. She quickly reached her breaking point and burst into tears. I knew you were biased. Everyone always takes senior sister's side. I don't care, I will form contracts with 2 spirit beasts at once to prove I can do anything senior sister can. The master teacher, helpless against her tantrums, could only wave his hand in silent consent. Her behavior struck me as utterly ridiculous. Fine then, I'll spend the rest of my life watching how her lazy, gluttonous ass plans to obtain those rare treasures and reform that damn bird's core without my tireless efforts. After bringing the reindeer back to our place, he immediately pestered me to sign a contract. I hesitated. Though contracts bind both parties, the horrors of my past life forced me to tread carefully. The reindeer caught my hesitation, a flicker of hurt flashing through its eyes. Do you really love that white crane so much? After all this time, you're still thinking about him. You can't possibly believe his nonsense, can you? A worthless fool like him could never reclaim his divine status. If we really let him go back, it would bring shame upon our entire Divine Beast clan. Watching his pitiful expression, I couldn't help but find it somewhat amusing. Why, think about him. Didn't I tell you? You're all I need. Hearing this, he immediately brightened up, carefully retracting his antlers while nuzzling against me incessantly. Really? Then tell me, who's better looking, him or me? Such childish remarks left me utterly speechless. I suppressed a laugh and replied, you're the prettiest, no contest. He twirled gracefully in place before finally looking satisfied. His interruption somehow eased much of my fear about the bonding ritual. I knew deep down this couldn't go on any longer. If I couldn't overcome this mental block, my past life would haunt me like a demon, hindering my cultivation. Are you absolutely certain? Once we form this bond, betrayal means I'll detonate my golden cord to take us both down. Even if it destroys me, I had expected the reindeer to hesitate, after all. Though spirit beasts form pacts with humans, the species divide could still breed disloyalty. Losing one's life over this would be too high a price to pay, yet the reindeer didn't retreat. Instead, a flicker of compassion flashed through its jet-black eyes. Rest assured, having chosen you, I shall never waver in this lifetime or the next. I swear upon the heavenly Tao, should betrayal ever cross my heart, may my soul scatter to oblivion, never to enter the cycle of rebirth. His solemn oath sent tremors through my heart. Without hesitation, I channeled my cultivation technique, forcing a drop of heart's blood to merge with his essence. The contract is sealed, too. From this moment forth, as long as our souls endure, this pact shall never fade. The reindeer suddenly shrank to the size of a kitten, circling around my legs in playful loops. His adorable appearance was utterly heart-melting. I quickly scooped him up in my arms. The reindeer tilted its head and nuzzled my cheek. You don't know my name yet, do you? Remember, it's Hugh, Hugh, I murmured instinctively, only to find him staring at me unblinkingly with an unusually intense gaze. My face flushed crimson in an instant. What are you doing, Rhea? Why are you holding him? Levi had woken up unnoticed and came stumbling over. Cynthia followed close behind, a flicker of jealousy in her eyes. Senior sister, since you already have your reindeer, how could you shamelessly seduce my spirit beast? Levi's body remained covered in bloodstains, his eyes filled with anguish. Rhea, why won't you choose me in this lifetime? You clearly love me so much. How could you bear to abandon me? Leave that reindeer and form a pact with me, won't you? I know you still resent me, but it's fine. Even a master-servant contract would suffice. I beg you, just don't leave me. The reindeer gave him a disdainful look before leaping to the ground and resuming its true form, then with elegant grace he extended his forehoof and sent Levi tumbling to the ground with a single kick. What kind of worthless trash bird is this? The stench follows you everywhere. Get the hell out. Cynthia immediately gathered Levi into her arms, seething with anger. How could senior sister tolerate her spirit beast attacking others so recklessly? This is absolutely unacceptable. So now that you've got this reindeer, you're looking down on everyone. But mark my words, this is Silas the Divine Phoenix. Once he recovers, he'll be a legendary beast. Don't come begging for our help then. Levi kept struggling in her arms, his eyes burning with resentment. With no other choice, Cynthia had to forcibly carry him back. The surroundings fell silent. Rubbing my throbbing temples, fragments of past life memories kept flashing through my mind. Even after rebirth, those haunting memories still cling to me, bringing piercing headaches whenever they resurface. A snow-white figure nimbly leapt into my embrace. The shrunken Hugh extended his warm pink tongue, gently licking my cheek. The ticklish sensation drew laughter from me, and the weight in my heart unexpectedly lightened, recalling Levi's completely different attitude compared to his past life. I instinctively furrowed my brows. Who knows what his intentions are, probably trying to manipulate me into paving his way again, but I'm no longer that naive girl from before. I was ready to eliminate him right then to avoid future trouble, but seeing him like this made me reconsider. Let's spare his life for now. Following Cynthia, he'll never rebuild his downtown like in his past life. I'd love to see if these two good-for-nothings can still be all lovey-dovey like their previous incarnation. Night fell as I tossed and turned in bed, finally drifting into a fitful sleep after what felt like ages. The soft warmth in my arms grew increasingly scorching, as if something was coiling around my body, making it hard to breathe. My eyes flew open, only for my nose to collide with a bare chest. I froze instantly, bewildered by how a man had appeared in my bed, a completely naked man at this moment. I'm crushed in his embrace as if he wants to fuse our very bones together. His features were carved like ice sculptures, ethereally beautiful yet undeniably masculine. In my past life, Levi had been the most handsome man I'd ever seen, but this man before me not only matched his beauty, he surpassed it. Just as my thoughts began wandering aimlessly, the man slowly opened those mesmerizing eyes of his, caught peeking. My face flushed crimson with embarrassment. I struggled free from his embrace in a fluster. He rose slowly, his jet-black hair cascading down to partially veil his alabaster shoulders. Such breathtaking beauty defies all description. Rhea, what's wrong? It's still early. Why are you getting up? Hearing that familiar voice, I let out a sigh of relief. Hugh, he gave a soft in response, his eyes crinkling with a warm smile as he looked at me. I averted my gaze instinctively, not daring to look at him any longer. You, how did you suddenly take human form? Any spirit beast capable of shapeshifting at will must possess unfathomable cultivation. Then why would such a being willingly form a contract with me? Before I could process my thoughts, his arms suddenly pulled me into an embrace. My human form is more pleasing than the beastly one. This way I can stay by your side and keep that wretched bird from bewitching you. His childish, possessive words drew an amused chuckle from me. My palms pressed against his bare chest, the jade-like warmth of his skin instantly flushed my ears crimson. But you can't just walk around naked. Wait here, I'll go borrow some clothes for you. As I turned to leave, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. He gazed at me with pitiful, starry eyes that held endless charm. Rhea, I'm exhausted. Let's just sleep now. You can go tomorrow. Okay, no way. I shook my head firmly, yanking the blanket over him completely. Seizing the moment, I bolted out like a shot. There's no way I'm letting him sleep naked with me. Truth is, I was afraid I'd lose my resolve and succumb to his charms. I rushed to my master's courtyard and asked to borrow a set of men's clothing. His refined face twitched slightly, clearly taken aback. Rhea, I never realized you'd developed such thoughts. This is truly improper, but this path is wrong. A teacher's role is lifelong as a father figure. I can never reciprocate such feelings. Seeing his misunderstanding, I quickly cut him off. Master, what nonsense are you thinking? Aren't you afraid Uncle will whip you for this? I just wanted to borrow some clothes for my newly transformed spirit beast. You can't expect him to go out naked, can you? My master's expression grew even more shocked than before. What? Your spirit beast has taken human form, though that reindeer was indeed extraordinarily gifted. Achieving transformation this quickly is still exceptionally rare. Excellent. Truly my worthy disciple, you've made your master proud. The master patted my head, his face blooming with joy like a flower. Just then, a snow-white fawn emerged from nowhere and leaped straight into my arms. Hugh had transformed back into his original form and followed me again. While my master went inside to fetch clothes, he began nuzzling my face incessantly. Upon closer look, those mournful eyes held a faint trace of displeasure and resentment. What are you two doing alone together in the middle of the night? He's not even better looking than me. Why would you choose him? I immediately covered his mouth. Stop talking nonsense. This is my master. To me, he's no different from my own father. When my master handed me the clothes, the usually well-behaved Hugh actually huffed pridefully, burying his face in my chest and refusing to even glance at him. My master and I exchanged a look, both torn between laughter and exasperation. Carrying Hugh back to the courtyard, he changed into fresh robes in no time. The plain white robe looked unexpectedly refined on him, elevated by his dazzling beauty. Before I could react, he swept me into his arms and tumbled us onto the bed. Rhea, it's still early, let's sleep in a little longer. Okay. Waking up past noon left me in a dazed, half-asleep state. Diligence came naturally to me, and in my past life for Levi's sake, I never allowed myself a moment's respite. His wounds refused to heal, forcing me to toil from dawn till dusk, scouring every hidden realm for divine remedies. On several occasions when exhaustion overwhelmed me and I sought rest, his displeasure was palpable. With such laziness, when will you ever restore my divine essence? I am the celestial phoenix Silas. If you can't endure this trifling hardship, you're unworthy of being my chosen. Left with no choice, I ventured alone into perilous depths. Each time I returned to the sect battered and bruised, I could only force a smile when questioned. Levi's unique bloodline and unhealed injuries made constant companionship difficult. Gradually, everyone grew accustomed to my solitary existence. While I was risking my life for Levi, he was secretly canoodling with his junior sister in the sect. Clueless disciples who witnessed this even called them a match made in heaven. Yet when I returned to the courtyard covered in blood with rare treasures, he always looked at me with disgust. He even generously gave my precious healing herbs to that junior sister. I thought it was natural for a spirit beast like him to lack worldly wisdom, and I was prepared to teach him patiently. Little did I know, it wasn't that he didn't understand human nature, he was simply ruthless and cruel. Recalling my past life's hardships made this fleeting moment of idleness feel all the more precious. Seeing me awake, Hugh gently caressed my cheek before pressing his forehead against mine. To my astonishment, he actually imparted a cultivation technique to me. This technique is remarkably profound, allowing both contracted parties to practice simultaneously with doubled efficiency, but I've never heard of any spirit beast possessing such extraordinary capabilities. Even Levi the sightless bird who regained his divine status in my past life would struggle to accomplish this. So, Hugh, is he really just a reindeer? Seeing me dazed, Hugh chuckled and gave my earlobe a playful pinch. I know you're curious, but be patient. One day, I'll tell you everything. From that day on, Hugh and I began our cultivation journey together. Before I knew it, I had unexpectedly broken through to the nascent soul stage. Overjoyed by the news, my master immediately sent me to represent our sect in the grand tournament held within the secret realm. 3. I was thrilled too, after all. This competition would gather all the rising stars of the cultivation world. Winning the championship would make my name renowned throughout the realm. Ever since that unpleasant parting with Levi and Cynthia, they never came looking for me again. Enjoying the peace, I prepared to head to the trial realm with Hugh. Just before departure, Cynthia suddenly barged through the door. I stared at her weary eyes, my face expressionless. She mustered a weary smile for me. Senior sister, I heard you recently visited the secret realm and obtained some moonlight herbs. You probably have no use for such treasures anyway, they'd just go to waste with you. Why not lend them to me first? I'll return them once Levi recovers from his injuries. You know Levi isn't some ordinary spirit beast, he's the divine phoenix Silas. Help us now, and when Levi ascends to divinity again, I'll put in a good word for you. The rewards will be beyond your imagination. I scoffed silently. She squirmed under my gaze but still managed to speak. Am I wrong? Even the Grandmaster confirmed Levi's extraordinary lineage. He must be the divine phoenix Silas. Once his wounds heal, he'll ascend again. All he needs now is the right opportunity. The corner of my mouth curled as I stared at her with disdain. In that case, junior sister should work harder, instead of wasting time begging like a beggar here. You'd better explore more secret realms to find rare treasures for your Silas. After all, given his current condition, he could drop dead any moment if you don't hurry. Cynthia flushed crimson with rage and snapped, Rhea, don't think being the senior sister gives you the right to talk to me like this. Today I'll teach you a proper lesson and show you what I'm capable of. Just as she was about to strike, Hugh emerged from the house and with a casual flick of his hand sent her flying head over heels. Cynthia shrieked as she landed in an undignified heap on the ground. Her gaze instinctively darted toward Hugh, flickering with both awe and resentment. Hugh wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, his voice a low, honeyed whisper laced with venom. Lay another finger on her, and I'll carve you into 1,000 pieces. Cynthia scrambled up from the ground, her face ghostly pale as she fled in panic. Mark my words, Rhea. Once Levi recovers, you'll pay for this. I couldn't help but gloat at her pitiful state. When I arrived with Hugh to meet our master, I was surprised to find Cynthia there too. Her previous dejection had vanished, replaced by a faint air of smugness. I frowned as a troubling suspicion formed in my mind. Before I could even ask, Cynthia blurted out, Rhea, haven't you always looked down on me, now that Levi's taken human form? We'll be competing alongside you in the sect tournament. Our master frowned nearby, looking particularly troubled. Cynthia, the sect tournament isn't as simple as you imagine. It's held in a mystic realm full of unknown dangers. Be reasonable and stay behind, won't you? Cynthia snorted defiantly. No way. Why can senior sister go but not me? My spirit beast has transformed too, but your senior sister has already reached the nascent soul stage, while you've barely begun foundation establishment. The gap between you two. Before the words were finished, Cynthia rudely cut in, Master, spare me your lectures. I know you always favor Rhea. I'm entering this tournament to prove I'm every bit her equal. Seeing her stubborn determination, the master silently acquiesced. Some fates cannot be warned away. It was time to depart, yet Cynthia still refused to budge. As minutes ticked by, the other participating disciples grew visibly impatient. What's wrong with our junior sister? Despite her low cultivation level, She insisted on joining the competition. Isn't she just holding everyone back, and her spirit beast still hasn't shown up? Could it be that it hasn't even achieved transformation yet? Amidst the anxious waiting of the crowd, Levi finally arrived fashionably late, clad in pristine white robes with an upright posture. His features were undoubtedly exquisite, yet Hugh's dazzling presence somehow made him appear diminished by comparison. Ignoring Cynthia, who approached him, he strode toward me with visible excitement. The disciples buzzed with whispers. That's Junior Sister's contracted spirit beast. It's already taken human form this quickly. No way. Could he actually be the divine bird Silas? I found it strange too. In our past life, it would have made sense for Levi to take form now since I nourished him with rare treasures. With Cynthia being such a lazy glutton in this lifetime, how could she possibly help him achieve transformation so quickly? Seeing me stare absent-mindedly at Levi, Hugh pouted in displeasure. Rhea, why are you looking at him? He's not even half as handsome as I am. I couldn't help but chuckle at his jealous antics. Yeah, of course he's not as handsome as you. I was just wondering, how did he manage to take human form so quickly? That shouldn't be possible. Hugh shot Levi a cold, mocking glance. He absorbed that grey wolf's core and cultivation. No wonder he could transform. That's when I remembered Cynthia's other contracted spirit beast. These two are truly ruthless. What goes around will come around. What a shame about that grey wolf. With a different master than Cynthia, it could have made something of itself. Rhea, Levi gazed at me longingly, taking a few steps forward to reach for my hand. He wrapped an arm around my waist and spun me away, leaving Levi grasping at air. Rhea, how could you do this to me? How could you be so heartless? His eyes glistened with tears as he looked at me with wounded expression. I got goosebumps from his disgusting behavior and instinctively stepped back. Cynthia rushed forward and forcibly restrained him, saying with a dark expression, Senior Sister, are you really that desperate? You already have your reindeer, yet you still try to seduce my Levi. The moment Levi heard this, he immediately slapped her hard across the face. You wretched woman, shut your mouth. Who gave you permission to speak to Rhea like that? Rhea, please forgive me. I've regretted it for so long. Only after you left did I realize, you're the one I've always loved. I know I broke your heart, but none of that has happened yet. I'll make it up to you properly. Give me this chance. Let's start over and become the perfect couple. All right. With that, he gazed at me hopefully, willing my heart to soften. Celestial lovers. Hugh murmured the phrase softly, his gentle tone somehow making my hair stand on end. You worthless bird, know your place, she's mine. No one takes what's mine. Dare to covet her again, and I'll crush your very soul, erasing your existence from this world. Hugh whisked me away with effortless charm, leaving Levi standing there heartbroken with tears streaming down his face. Cynthia clenched her jaw, a flash of hatred flickering in her eyes. The sex grand competition commenced as participating disciples streamed into the mystic realm. The rules were simple. Each contestant fought independently, eliminating opponents without causing fatal injuries. The first few days went surprisingly smooth. I could handle most opponents myself without Hugh's intervention, but starting from the 5th day, as we ventured deeper into the secret realm, I began sensing something amiss. This place is way too empty. Many disciples seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. As I stepped into the cavern, the gruesome scene of piled corpses and rivers of blood made my pupils instantly constrict. So this was where all the missing disciples had been, but they were all dead. Even their contracted spirit beasts hadn't been spared. At the cavern's heart, a familiar figure stood with its back to me, then slowly turned around. It's Levi. His eyes burned crimson, demonic energy flickering around his body. To regain his strength, he mercilessly slaughtered and absorbed the spiritual cores and cultivation of these disciples. The moment Levi spotted me, a predatory grin split his face. Rhea, just wait a little longer for me. I'll be fully recovered soon. When that time comes, we'll be together forever. Nothing can ever tear us apart again. His frenzied gaze sent a violent tremor through me, and I instinctively took several steps back. By now, Levi had regained 80% of his cultivation power, nearly matching his prime strength. He's the divine phoenix Silas, a newly formed nascent soul cultivator like me. Challenging him would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. Just as panic was setting in, Hugh grasped my hand firmly, wordlessly transferring his strength to me. Don't be afraid, Rhea. I'll handle him. You go rally the remaining disciples for retreat. I shook my head stubbornly, refusing to leave no matter what. No matter how remarkable Hugh is, he's still just a reindeer. How could he possibly compare to the divine phoenix Silas? Besides, after all this time together, he's become far more than just a spirit beast to me. I'd rather die here with him than run away alone. As if reading my thoughts, Hugh smiled tenderly and pressed a kiss to my lips. Listen to me, Rhea. Haven't you always wondered about my true identity? Once you leave this place, you'll find out soon enough. My nose tingled with suppressed emotion, tears threatening to spill. Deep down, I knew, if Hugh truly stood a chance against Levi, my staying would only make me a liability. Wiping away my tears, I steeled myself and prepared to leave. At that moment, an eerie voice like a specter's whisper pierced the silence. "Senior sister, do you truly believe you can escape?" Following the sound, I saw Cynthia stepping over piles of bones as she emerged slowly from the cave's depths. She too had succumbed to demonic cultivation, her power surging unnaturally, eyes burning with madness and vengeance. I frowned. "Cynthia, do you realize what you're doing? How could you collude with Levi to harm so many cultivators?" Why not? You forced me into this. I'm the youngest disciple, I should be the favorite, yet everyone orbits around you, never acknowledging my efforts. Why were you born gifted? Able to contract a spirit deer? Why does even Levi, a Silas, chase after you? I've sacrificed the most for him. Why am I invisible to him? This is all your fault. You never should have existed. But no matter, my power has grown beyond measure. Crushing someone like you is child's play. Mark my words, Rhea, this date next year will be your death anniversary. With venom in her eyes, she lunged at me. While fending her off, I stole glances at Hugh's battle situation. Seeing he wasn't at a disadvantage finally let me breathe easy. But my presence seemed to genuinely hinder his movements. With that thought, I deliberately led Cynthia toward the dungeon exit. As we advanced, the remaining cultivators were drawn to us. Seeing Cynthia's demonic transformation, they swiftly joined the fray. Frantically, I urged them to disengage and flee the mystic realm immediately. Once all cultivators had retreated, I no longer needed to maintain the charade with Cynthia. With a single thrust, my blade pierced through her heart. Her crimson eyes widened in disbelief as she gasped. How could you possibly defeat me?" I sneered. "You think someone like you could kill me? The only reason I've been toying with her this long was to create enough commotion to lure the remaining cultivators here." Cynthia collapsed like a sack of potatoes, her eyes wide with unseeing rage. I stepped over her corpse without a backward glance and left the secret realm. As if sensing my departure, Hugh suddenly transformed into his beast form. Though no longer resembling the reindeer of before, with wings sprouting from his back, a lion's body and dragon's tail, his snow-white fur radiated divine majesty beyond mortal reach. The nearby monks gasped in unison. "What is that? Such a magnificent spirit beast. What kind of spirit beast is that? Have you no eyes? That's the divine beast Evander. Evander, good heavens, what's he doing here?" As the words faded, a piercing phoenix cry rang out as Levi reverted to his true form. The simultaneous appearance of the divine phoenix Silas and the sacred beast Evander sent shockwaves through the realm. Both combatants stood mountain tall, their magical duel shaking the very earth. I held my breath, watching the battle unfold without blinking. Fortunately, Levi was defeated after 15 minutes. Evander completely overwhelmed Silas, forcing him to revert from human form back into a barely breathing white crane. Hugh dragged him out of the hidden realm by his single leg and casually tossed him onto the ground. Then he pulled me into a tight embrace, burying his face in the crook of my neck. Levi watched the scene with eyes wide in desperation, pleading bitterly, "Rhea, if you could save me in our past life, you can do it again now. Please help me, won't you? As you can see, I truly am Silas. Once I recover, I'll make you my cultivation partner and the happiest person in this world. Rhea, trust me." I let out a derisive laugh at his pitiful, disheveled state. Hugh planted his foot on the man's chest with a chilling grin. "Stop deluding yourself. She's loved me all her life, and I'm the only one who can make her happy." Just as I was about to press further, Levi suddenly mustered his last strength, flapped his wings, and lunged at me. With a single swing of my blade, I severed his head. The vengeance from our past life was finally settled by my own hand. Back at the sect, I told my master everything about Cynthia. He sighed and simply said, "What goes around comes around." Returning to the courtyard, I clung to Hugh's neck, pestering him relentlessly about his past life. After a moment's silence, he finally gave in to my persistence. From his account, I learned the whole truth of the matter. It turns out Hugh was entirely responsible for Levi's shattered core and grievous injuries. The two had been at odds since their celestial days, until Levi slaughtered every servant in Hugh's manor during his absence. Hugh couldn't swallow this humiliation when he saw his residence drenched in blood, so he challenged Levi to a duel and cast him down to the mortal realm. Later, to witness his enemy's wretched state, he too descended to the mortal world. To his surprise, Levi, who should have been barely clinging to life, was being cradled like a precious treasure in someone's hands. In our past life, I was always by your side, just never revealed myself. I watched you form a bond with him, run around for his sake, face danger alone, countless times. Jealousy gnawed at my heart. I thought, that worthless bird doesn't deserve someone so wonderful. If it were me, I'd cherish and love her properly. I never imagined he'd casually break the covenant. Seeing you suffer the backlash, I wanted to save you. But there was nothing I could do, so I returned to the divine realm. exhausted every means to find the mirror of reincarnation and reset everything from the beginning, so I vowed, this lifetime, I'll stay by your side without fail, never letting your heart wander to another. As the words faded, my face was already streaked with tears. What I'd thought was accidental rebirth turned out to be his doing. He'd bargained with the wheel mirror, but in this second chance, every broken piece finally fell into place. Hugh sighed and tenderly kissed away the tears at the corner of my eyes. Rhea, don't cry, from now on, I'll always be with you. I nodded softly, lowering my gaze to meet his lips with a kiss. So that's how it is. Next story. When the torrential rain hit, the whole city was engulfed by floods. My husband actually ended up in bed with a female classmate who was staying at our house. I was so angry that I wanted to kick her out, but my husband actually attacked me and pushed me off the windowsill. My 3-year-old daughter cried out for her mother and also jumped out of the window. My daughter and I were both drowned. After the torrential rain stopped, the female classmate was pregnant, and my husband happily married her. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were also overjoyed, and no one thought of me and my daughter who had died, until I was reborn. 1. I'll be home tonight. Looking at the message my husband sent in the loving family group, I was stunned. Then there was a voice message from my mother-in-law, Xiangqing, come to your parents' house. Your mother is planning to make steamed buns this afternoon. They will be freshly baked and the fillings have been bought. They are your favorite. There's also braised beef. My husband replied after a while, Mom, I haven't seen Elise for 2 months. I miss her a bit. My husband works on projects and is away from home for 10 months a year. This business trip lasted a full 2 months. Elise is our daughter, who has just turned 3 years old. My mother-in-law replied, ask Eden to bring Elise along. I've made a lot of steamed buns. It's not like there's not enough food. You all come together. It's settled. Although my mother-in-law said that, she knew in her heart that I wouldn't go. 2 years ago, I was still at work. My mother-in-law said she came to help take care of the child, but she was negligent. Elise had a fever and she didn't notice. Elise even banged her head and bled, but she actually said, it's normal for children to get bumped and bruised. What's such a minor injury? How could this be just a minor injury? There was blood all over her body. We went to the hospital and she got 3 stitches, leaving a scar that couldn't be removed. I remember that since I was pregnant, my mother-in-law got some folk remedies. She vowed that I was definitely carrying a daughter and asked me to have an abortion. At that time, I hadn't completely broken up with her on the surface. I just vaguely agreed and continued to protect the fetus. Unexpectedly, after giving birth to a daughter, she disliked her even more and urged me to have a son. She didn't care about Elise at all. Elise bled so much. I was finally so angry that I had a big argument with her and completely broke up with her. My mother-in-law threatened that she would never come to my house again and that I shouldn't expect her to take care of the child. I told her that I would take care of the child myself and that I didn't need her help. Just like that, although we don't live far apart, we ignored each other and didn't meet for 2 years. I quit my job and stayed at home to take care of the child while doing part-time work on a self-media account. 2. My husband has been trying to ease the relationship between me and my in-laws, at this time in my previous life, although I still had some grudges. Seeing that my mother-in-law had taken the initiative to make amends, I wasn't so angry anymore. Sure enough, a moment later, I saw my husband asking in the group, Eden, what do you think? What was my answer at that time? That's right, I told them that Elise had a bit of a fever and that we would go next time. As soon as my husband heard that the child had a fever, he immediately went home. Unexpectedly, that night, there was thunder and lightning, and a huge torrential rain hit. In just one day and one night, the entire community was flooded, and the water level was above the knees. 3 days later, the entire first floor was submerged. My father-in-law and mother-in-law lived on the second floor and were immediately panicked. Fortunately, we had an inflatable boat at home. I bought it when I took Elise to play in the water before. My husband found it, inflated it, and rode it to my in-laws' place to pick them up, after my mother-in-law came. She apologized to me many times, saying that she was wrong before. She really missed her granddaughter now and wanted to see Elise every day. She asked me not to drive her away. She also showed great concern for Elise and took care of all the housework. My husband also chimed in, saying that the past was in the past and that we should live a good life as a family in the future. Seeing my mother-in-law like this, I thought she had really changed, so I didn't say anything. After another day, my female classmate knocked on the door of my house. My female classmate's name is Faith. She is a high school classmate of my husband and me and happens to live in the same building as us. She said she had no food, and the door of the rented house was not secure. Some shady people were harassing her, and she really didn't know what to do. My husband said she was a poor woman, and since we had an extra room in our house, we took her in. Unexpectedly, the torrential rain continued for a whole month. Although I work in the food self-media industry and had stocked up a lot of food before, it couldn't withstand so many people eating together. Seeing that we were about to run out of food, I didn't want to be a good Samaritan anymore and planned to ask my husband to get rid of Faith. She could live in my house, but she had to find her own way to get food. Our family was going to be hungry. How could we have any extra food? Unexpectedly, when I opened the door and went in, I found that my husband was also there. They were in an ambiguous position. Their bodies were touching. My husband was suppressing his, and Faith's face was blushing. 3. My mind exploded on the spot, and I completely lost my temper. My father-in-law and mother-in-law rushed over and kept scolding my husband. My father-in-law even took out his belt and whipped my husband hard. I wanted to drive them both away, but my mother-in-law said, "Eden, you've been married to Cedric for 5 years, don't you know him? It must be that woman who seduced him. It's raining so heavily outside. If he goes out now, he'll be doomed. For the sake of Elise, let's wait until the rain stops." Okay, my husband, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law all begged me desperately, and my daughter was crying loudly beside me. In the end, I held my daughter and gently soothed her. I agreed to let my husband stay, but we had to drive Faith away. This time, my father-in-law and mother-in-law were on my side and drove Faith away. My husband didn't say anything. Unexpectedly, since Faith had nowhere to go, she stayed outside my door and cried mournfully. She was crying so sadly that I was annoyed. In the middle of the night, I actually heard my husband sneak out and open the door to let her in. I couldn't help but have another big argument. My husband actually attacked me and pushed me off the windowsill. My daughter woke up, cried, and came after me. She also jumped out of the window. Downstairs was a vast expanse of floodwater. My daughter and I were drowned alive. Faith actually moved into my house with peace of mind. 3 days later, the rain stopped and the floodwater receded. Faith found out that she was pregnant, and my husband happily married her. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were also overjoyed. And no one remembered me and my daughter Elise, who had been murdered by them, for I couldn't control my tears. I picked up the tissues beside me and wiped them vigorously. My phone rang. I answered it and saw that it was my husband. "Cedric," he said, "look at the group. Mom asked us to take Elise and go over for dinner tonight. Why don't we go together?" It turned out that since I hadn't replied for a long time, he couldn't wait and called me. I looked at my daughter, who was sleeping soundly in bed, and walked to the living room. "I'm feeling sleepy today. I almost fell asleep while taking care of Elise. I won't go. You can go." After thinking about it, I added, "If you come back too late, you can stay at your parents' place. You can come back tomorrow. Tomorrow, when the torrential rain washes over, the water level will be knee-deep, and it won't be so easy for him to come back." My husband didn't think much and agreed. "Okay. Don't go to bed too early. Remember to have dinner tonight, even if you don't eat. Elise is still growing and she needs to eat." I suppressed my surging emotions and replied calmly, "Okay." After hanging up the phone, I looked at the sky. It was dark, and it was already past 4 in the afternoon. If I remember correctly, the torrential rain will start at 7 o'clock in the evening. The sky will change suddenly, and there will be thunder and lightning. I only have a little more than 2 hours left. I have to hurry. Elise was still sleeping. Because of the fever, her forehead was a bit red. I changed the wet compress for her, then took the car keys and planned to go to the supermarket for a big shopping spree. The torrential rain will last for a whole month. There will be large-scale floods in the whole city. In our community, the water will flood up to the 10th floor. If I don't go now, I won't have the chance to buy things. After leaving the house, I thought of something and immediately called my parents. They are rural people and live on higher ground. The torrential rain didn't have much impact on them in my previous life. Even so, I still called to remind them, "Mom, the torrential rain will last for more than a month. Hurry up and go out to buy a lot of food. The more you buy, the better." My mother said, "Your father and I grow crops. We have enough rice at home to last us 2 years, don't worry." What about the vegetables? The vegetable garden is right behind the house. We also have a lot of cured fish and cured meat, and there are plenty of fresh vegetables. The good thing about the countryside is that they grow their own crops, even if the food isn't very good. In such extreme weather, because they have a lot of stored food, they definitely won't go hungry. I heaved a sigh of relief. My mother said, "Why don't you hurry up and bring Elise back? There won't be a flood, right?" I refused. "Mom, I've also stocked up a lot. It's okay, don't worry. If I could be reborn earlier, I would definitely take Elise to my parents' house, but there are only a little more than 2 hours left before the sky changes. By then, the car will definitely still be on the road. If it wades through water and encounters bad roads or landslides, it's really uncertain whether we can go back. For safety's sake, I decided to stay." 5. The big supermarket is not far from my house. It only takes 2 minutes to drive there. I first went to the grain and oil section and tipped 2 bags of rice, each weighing 100 caddies. After thinking about it, I went to the instant food section and took 5 boxes of instant noodles. I also tipped canned fish, canned meat, and canned vegetables, all in boxes. In the snack section, I bought the meat sausages, milk, and eggs that my daughter likes. as well as all kinds of small packaged snacks that she usually eats. I swept them all up. I bought bag after bag and carried them to the car in batches. I also bought all kinds of fresh vegetables, specifically choosing those that are easy to store, such as potatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, yams, and chestnuts. I also bought all kinds of meat, including beef, mutton, and pork. I also bought nuts that are especially durable, such as walnuts, melon seeds, and pistachios. I remember that half a month after the torrential rain, the water, electricity, and gas will all be cut off. Drinking water is also a must-buy. I took 10 large buckets of bottled water and also bought some water purification tablets. By the way, the trunk of the car, and even the back seat and the passenger seat, were all stuffed by me. I drove back with a car full of supplies and carried them up with a small cart. After piling all these things in the living room, my daughter walked out of the room. She had actually woken up. "Mom, where did you go?" My daughter was wearing pajamas. Looking at the scar on her forehead, my heart ached. I walked over and hugged her, saying, "Elise, Mom is going out to buy some more things. Will you stay at home obediently?" My daughter refused. "Mom, I don't want you to go. Be good." I quickly turned on the TV for her. "Watch cartoons at home. Mom promises to come back soon." Only then did my daughter sit on the sofa. I went out for another big shopping spree. Since Elise is in poor health, medicine is also essential. I went to the pharmacy and bought antipyretics, cold medicine, and antiviral drugs, as well as drugs to prevent colds and enhance immunity. I bought all the daily medicines I could think of. After thinking about it, I also bought 2 special drugs just in case. Then I went to the vegetable market and bought 2 cans of liquid natural gas and 2 gas stoves. When I saw that there were many plastic buckets for sale, and they didn't take up much space when stacked, I bought more than a dozen. When I came back, I passed by the supermarket and went in to buy all kinds of care products, toiletries, toilet paper, garbage bags, and seasonings. Although we have some of these things at home, they are not enough. Remembering that it might be inconvenient after the power outage, I also bought a bunch of candles, batteries, power banks, and flashlights. I also bought a fruit knife and anti-wolf spray just in case. After bringing all these things home, I heaved a sigh of relief. With so many supplies, it's definitely enough for my daughter and me to live for a year. 6. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the torrential rain arrived as expected. "I'll be there in an hour." In the group, Cedric sent a message. After a while, my mother-in-law replied with a voice message, "Drive slowly, there's no rush, the steamed buns have been steamed, and Mom is cooking now. Only I know that Cedric won't be back so soon. The torrential rain has delayed him, and he won't be home until 11 o'clock at night. But what does that have to do with me? I cooked 2 dishes and a soup, and my daughter happily ate them. Then I gave her a bath and found that her fever had gone down. I took her to bed. I kept the doors and windows closed all night. The thunder and lightning outside didn't particularly affect me. I got up early in the morning and started putting the things I bought yesterday into the cabinets by category. In the morning, I cooked some sticky porridge for my daughter. Before she could eat it, I received a call from my husband, Cedric. "Eden, it rained so heavily last night. I didn't arrive until midnight. It's raining so hard outside that my car was flooded." I asked, "Haven't you gotten up yet?" His voice was hoarse, and it was obvious that he had just woken up. He hummed in agreement. It's raining so heavily, you can stay at your parents' place, you can't drive, wait until the rain stops before coming back. Elise and I are fine at home. After all, I live on the 28th floor, and the flood won't reach here." Before Cedric could speak, I heard my mother-in-law's voice. "Eden has asked you to stay with Mom. What's the point of going back?" It seemed that she realized that what she said was wrong, and she immediately changed her words. "What Mom means is that it's raining heavily outside. Do you want to walk back? It's better to wait until the rain stops." Only then did Cedric relent. "Okay, later. Send me a video so I can see Elise. I'll come back as soon as the rain stops." I hung up the phone and heaved a sigh of relief when Cedric called for a video again. I gave the phone to my daughter directly. 7. I walked to the balcony and looked down. The rain was pouring down. I heard that the underground garage was all flooded, and the water had reached the road. There were almost no people downstairs. Until the afternoon, an owner on the first floor sent a photo in the owner group, saying that his house was flooded and the water level was as high as the calves. He also wrote, "Our home is gone. Is the end of the world coming?" On the news, there were also all kinds of rumors about the end of the world. The official quickly came out to refute the rumors, but reminded the citizens to stock up on food and drinks, saying that it was uncertain how long the torrential rain would last and that it might cause floods. This led to the panic spreading continuously. When it got dark, I saw that there were more people downstairs. They were wearing raincoats and holding umbrellas, carrying bags of things from the supermarket to their homes. Many owners also sent pictures of the supplies they had bought in the owner group. There were quite a few people who were sensitive to the situation, but my mother-in-law didn't seem to notice. When Cedric called via video, I heard my mother-in-law complaining, "With such heavy rain, how can we go out to buy groceries?" Although the water and electricity wouldn't be cut off so soon, I still filled more than a dozen large buckets with clean water and put them in the empty room. After the water supply was cut off, the only water we could use would be the rainwater we collected. However, the rainwater wasn't clean. Later, many people in the building got sick, and there was a shortage of medicine. It was a complete mess. Elisa's health wasn't good, so I had to ensure that the food she ate was clean enough. 3 days later, the entire first floor was flooded. The owners on the first floor moved to the third floor. They had a good relationship with the people on the third floor, and the third floor was willing to take them in. Cedric was almost going crazy. He didn't expect that the rain would get heavier and the water level would rise deeper. Seeing that the second floor was about to be flooded, my father-in-law and mother-in-law lived on the second floor. Cedric called and said, "Eden, my parents' place is about to be flooded. I remember Elise has an inflatable boat. How about you leave Elise at home and row the inflatable boat to pick us up?" As expected, he thought of this. I took out the inflatable boat from the cabinet, and without hesitation, I took out the scissors and cut it to pieces. Then I took a photo and sent it to him. "Is this what you're talking about? It was like this when I saw it a few days ago." Cedric was frustrated. "Forget it, we'll find a way to get over there by ourselves. You have to keep the door tightly closed at home. At a time like this, all kinds of shady people will come out," I replied. "Got it." The building group was already in a commotion. Some office workers were complaining about their heartless boss, saying that even at a time like this, they were still required to go to work. Some people didn't stock up on food at home and were in a hurry these days, looking everywhere for other owners to buy food from. "I heard that instant noodles were sold for 51 yuan a pack," Cedric also said. "Do you remember Faith? She lives on the 12th floor. These days, she can only work from home. The house she's renting is not sturdy, and she has no food left. There are also all kinds of people harassing her, and she's too scared to sleep at night." "Eden, I was thinking that since we have an empty room at home, why don't we take her in for a few days? She's an old classmate of ours and also a colleague now." At a time like this, she came to me, and I feel embarrassed to refuse. I stared at these messages and sneered a few times. Then I called him and said, "If Faith is in trouble, why didn't she come to me? I helped her rent that house. She always said she would thank me, but I haven't seen her do anything. Now that she's in trouble, she went to you first." Cedric quickly replied, "Maybe it's because she's in the same company as me and we have more contact at work, so she happened to come to me." I immediately retorted, "Didn't you say that you have no work-related handovers with her? Why is she contacting you for work now?" Cedric seemed a bit angry. "Eden, at a time like this, can you stop being suspicious? Faith had a work change some time ago and happened to need to hand over some materials with me. That's all. Okay, let's not talk about it. You arrange a room for her. We still have to see each other often. Don't make things awkward." "No way." "What did you say?" Cedric seemed stunned. I said word by word, "There's no food left at home, and we can't take her in." Cedric immediately got anxious and raised his voice. "You usually cook at home. How can there be no food? If we refuse her at a time like this, what if something happens to her?" "Cedric," I was almost laughing out of anger, "at a time like this, you don't care if me and Elise will go hungry, but you care about an irrelevant person." Cedric finally reacted and said weakly, "Eden." I ignored him and hung up the phone directly. 9. The next day, the second floor was flooded. The residents on the second floor were cursing and begging to be taken in. I fully charged all 30 power banks in preparation for the power outage. There were also the meats in the refrigerator. For the ones that couldn't be finished, I made them all into cured meat because cured meat was easy to store these days. I cooked very sumptuous meals, and Elise ate until her mouth was full of oil. And she was getting chubby, because in the following days, it would be getting more and more difficult to survive in the building. It would be best not to cook. Once we cooked, the smell would spread, which would attract the covetousness of those who were hungry, and they could do anything. That night, I received a call from Faith. "Sister Eden, I'm outside your door. Can you let me in?" She had been to my house several times before, and I welcomed her warmly. "What are you here for?" My voice was slightly cold. Faith's crying came from the phone. "The door of the rented house is not good. There are always people knocking on the door outside, and I'm scared. Sister Eden, can you take me in for one night?" I thought of what happened a year ago. When Cedric came home, he suddenly said, "Do you remember Faith?" He said that Faith's husband had an affair and she got divorced. She happened to join his company, and he asked me to help her find a place to live nearby if I had time. Faith was a high school classmate of Cedric and me. Although we weren't very familiar, I felt sorry for her situation and seriously helped her find a house. At that time, Faith cried and said that during her 10-year marriage, her mother-in-law had always disliked her for not being able to have children. Her husband even found a mistress and kicked her out with nothing. We were both women. Remembering my mother-in-law's preference for boys over girls, I pitied her even more. I negotiated the rent with the landlord on her behalf, took her to the nearby supermarket to buy things, and gave her a lot of household items. Faith seemed extremely grateful on the surface, but she didn't give any substantial feedback in the past year. I didn't really care at first, but I remembered that during the month of the torrential rain in my previous life, instant noodles were sold for 1,000 yuan a pack. Yet she lived in my house for a month and took it for granted without giving a single penny. Some people take others' help for granted and may even bite the hand that feeds them. After being reborn, I saw many people clearly. No way. I directly refused her. My husband, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law are coming back soon, and there are also 2 relatives at home. There are too many people and there's no room for you, Faith. You have to find a way on your own this time. Her tone was subdued. Before she could say anything, I said, "There's almost no food left in my house, and I can't go out to buy any now. Do you still have some food? I want to buy some." Faith quickly said, "I've run out of food too, Sister Eden." After hanging up the phone, I ignored her and went to bed directly. 10. Early the next morning, I saw Faith posting in the building group, "There's really no food at home. If this goes on, I'll starve to death. Is there anyone willing to give me a hand and save my life? If I can survive, I will pray for you for the rest of my life." People below were speaking. "Are you an office worker? You don't cook at ordinary times, so you didn't stock up on food at home." That must be the case. I don't have any food at home either, and I only have 2 packs of instant noodles left. Instant noodles are 51 yuan a pack, and hot water for soaking them is included. Upstairs, at a time like this. Can you stop making a fortune out of the disaster? If you don't want to buy it, it's okay, I'm not forcing you. I scrolled down and found that the girl on the 17th floor at Faith, "I have some snacks at home and can share some with you." Faith replied, "Thank you, kind person." The time was 11 o'clock last night. The girl on the 17th floor seemed to be preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination at home, and her parents were on a business trip recently. She would go running downstairs in the community every evening. She was a very cute and kind girl. Elise met her downstairs several times and would smile and say, "Pretty sister." The girl on the 17th floor would also smile and give Elise some of her snacks. I thought for a while, clicked on the avatar of the girl on the 17th floor, and sent her a message. "We don't know how long the torrential rain will last. If you have enough stored food at home, it's better not to let too many people know, because people's hearts are unpredictable." Thinking that Faith was looking for a place to live, I sent another message. "Remember to close the doors and windows and don't let strangers into your house. You're a girl, so be extra careful." It wasn't until noon that the girl on the 17th floor replied to me, "Thank you, but I usually cook at home, and I have enough stored food. How is Elise?" "I have some snacks at home. I bought a bit too much before, so I can give some to her." I sighed softly. The girl on the 17th floor was really too kind, but in a situation like this natural disaster, kindness might not necessarily be a good thing. I replied, "No need. I've seen the reports of previous natural disasters and what was said online. With such torrential rain, it's very likely that we won't be able to go out for a month or 2. Keep the food for yourself in case you don't have enough." The girl on the 17th floor, "It's enough for me, thank you." 11. Cedric called via video again, and I answered it symbolically. He said that he, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law had moved to the 4th floor. The family on the 4th floor could give them a room, but they were really heartless. They actually asked for 5,000 yuan from them, and the food cost was 100 yuan per person per day. A week later, the 4th floor was flooded. Cedric called me frantically, "Eden, there are a lot of people in your community. See if you can borrow an inflatable boat. It's really not good here. My parents and I have been driven to the corridor. There are people everywhere in the corridor, and it costs 200 yuan to charge the phone once." I looked down from upstairs and indeed saw an inflatable boat rowing below. Our community was a new one. The buildings were tall, and there were many people living here, so it was normal to have everything. The situation at my father-in-law and mother-in-law's place was different. It was an old community, and the highest floor was only the 7th floor. Most of the residents were elderly people. However, there were also many people cooking at their place, so they probably wouldn't be short of food. "I didn't see one," I said aggrievedly. My mother-in-law snatched the phone. "Didn't you look carefully? I saw one this morning." I was also angry. "Since you saw it, why didn't you ask him to take you over?" My mother-in-law roared. "It's so far away, and it's thundering and lightning outside. They can't hear us. I hung up the phone directly. If they could really come over, they should come first. In the building group, more and more people were seeking to buy food and drinks. A bowl of food was sold for 300 yuan, and it was in short supply. I heard that the inflatable boat belonged to a young man on the 36th floor. He could swim and row the inflatable boat out to find food. Many people who were out of food were buying from him. Everyone didn't say much now, even though it was expensive. It was more important to stay alive. Moreover, with such heavy rain, it was extremely dangerous for him to row the inflatable boat out to find food. I thought for a while and also posted a message in the group seeking to buy food and drinks. Just in case, then I was about to cook, but I found that the water supply was cut off. From today on, it would be getting more and more difficult to survive. I used the stored water to cook a sumptuous last dinner for myself and Elise and also stewed a soup. I didn't plan to cook in the following days because once the smell of the food was smelled or the sound of stir-fried dishes was heard, it would bring trouble to me and Elise. I took out the ready-to-eat cooked food that I had stocked up on before and would eat that in the future. 3 days later, the power was cut off. The entire building group was filled with wails. Are we just going to wait for death? Our floor is high. If we go out, we'll die immediately. If we stay here, we'll die a few days later. You choose, forget it. If we die, we die. But in such a situation of extreme water and food shortage, human nature would unleash the greatest malice. That night, someone sent a message in the building group. How can you just rob openly? Do you have no humanity? The cause was still related to the young man on the 36th floor. He had found a lot of food before, and now instant noodles were sold for 400 yuan a pack. Even a small pack of dried meat was sold for 200 yuan. Many people in the building knew that he had food at home. 5 or 6 men said they wanted to buy things from him, but they rushed into his house and emptied all the remaining food. The young man on the 36th floor was beaten up and had injuries all over his body. He sent the video to the building group. There were all kinds of voices. Get out. Why are you robbing? You're heartless. That's why we're beating you. You're selling such a small amount of food for hundreds of yuan. That's why we're robbing you. After this video was sent out, quite a few people cheered. This kind of person deserves to be taught a lesson. He has food but doesn't know how to share. Instead, he just wants to make money. It didn't end there. The next day, the body of the young man on the 36th floor appeared around the building. I heard that he was so angry that he wanted to get some things back from those people, but he was beaten up by several people, knocked unconscious, and thrown down from the building. He drowned, and his body floated up. 12. The building group fell into silence. The power was cut off, and fewer people had electricity left on their phones. Fortunately, I had prepared power banks long ago and kept charging my phone. I didn't know what was going on with Cedric either, and there was no news from him. In the building group, a person named Cyrus took the lead and said that more and more people were without water and food now. It would be better if everyone united and found a way to go out to find food together. Many people signed up at once. A few more days passed, and the torrential rain had lasted for more than half a month. Several times during this period, I heard someone knocking on the door, and even pounding on it, but I ignored it. Since I couldn't watch TV, I simply taught Elise to read picture books in the room. At night, I drew the curtains tightly so that the faint light of the candle in the room couldn't be seen from outside, and others wouldn't know that there were people living in my house. Late at night one day, I suddenly woke up. I took out my phone and saw that it was only 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, but there were a lot of messages in the building group. I scrolled all the way to the top and saw a video sent by the girl on the 17th floor. She stood on the balcony, her hair was messed up by the rain, and she shouted loudly, "When you had nothing to eat before, I gave you snacks. Faith on the 12th floor, didn't I give you a lot of snacks, but you brought them here and robbed the food in my house, leaving me with no way out. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." I scrolled down the messages and my heart trembled. It was said that the girl on the 17th floor had jumped off the building and was already dead. They said that Faith knocked on the door, saying that she was so hungry that she had nothing to eat. The girl on the 17th floor felt sorry for her and opened the door to give her a pack of instant noodles. As a result, Cyrus led people to rush in and emptied all the food on the 17th floor. Not only that, they also said a lot of insulting words to her, and they might have done something to humiliate her. The girl on the 17th floor was so angry that she jumped off the building. Didn't you want to form a group to go out and find food? Why did you rob people in the same building? What did the girl on the 17th floor do wrong? She even shared food with you. You forced her to death. Do you have any humanity? There was a wave of condemnation. The girl on the 17th floor was really kind and nice, and many people in the building knew that. If I had seen this video earlier, I might have tried to stop her, but it was too late. Even Faith was dragged out and condemned. I saw Faith's message below. They forced me. I'm sorry. Below that was Cyrus's arrogant message. She clearly had food. Why didn't she take it out? If those of you who have stored food at home take it out, we can all get through this difficult time together, then there won't be any problems. You are too selfish. You clearly have stored food but hide it, wanting us to starve to death. In that case, either you take out the food, and maybe we won't all die, or we will all die together. Surprisingly, there were quite a few people who agreed with him. They should be those who ran out of water and food first. When they knew that Cyrus and the people with him actually targeted the residents in the same building, the people who were speaking fell silent immediately. Everyone was afraid for their own safety. A person who didn't mark any floor number said a few words. These beasts will pretend to be pitiful and deceive everyone to open the door, and then they will rob everything. If the girl on the 17th floor hadn't sent out the video before she died, how many more people would be deceived? They are in a large group, and they won't return what they robbed from us. We will only starve to death. Everyone who is still alive should be vigilant. At this time, don't think about sacrificing yourself for others. In fact, it's like feeding the wolves with your own flesh. Protecting yourself and your family is the most important thing. The building group became even quieter. I couldn't sleep either. I got up with a flashlight and planned to move the sofa and the table to the door to block it, although the anti-theft door of my house is very sturdy, because most of the time it was just me and Elise at home. I specially bought a very sturdy anti-theft door. In my previous life, this anti-theft door wasn't broken through, but I still wasn't relieved at this time when I put on my shoes and opened the door. I actually heard the sound of the doorknob turning at the front door. 13. I immediately became nervous and locked the door and didn't dare to move. Who came in? I clearly reset the password of the front door. Who else has the key to my house? I was so nervous that my palms were sweating. Then I heard someone come in, and the front door closed again. Elise, Eden. It was Cedric. I heaved a sigh of relief and opened the door. Cedric was outside, supporting a person. I shone the flashlight and saw that it was my mother-in-law. They both looked very bad. They were soaked through. Not only were they in a sorry state, but my mother-in-law was also weak. Cedric helped my mother-in-law to the guest room. I took a step back and asked, "Are you both sick?" Cedric nodded. "Mom's arthritis flared up. I just have a fever. It's okay. Where's Elise?" Cedric went to the master bedroom and took a look at Elise from a distance. Then he said, "I won't go over there. In case I infect you, I'll change my clothes and sleep on the sofa." Sure enough, he took a set of clothes and went to the sofa outside. I wasn't about the front door, so I checked it again before going back to the room with peace of mind. Early the next morning, I turned on the gas stove and boiled an egg for Elise, heated the milk, and divided the remaining cooked food between Cedric and my mother-in-law. Unexpectedly, when Cedric saw that there was a lot of food in the cabinet, he suddenly got angry. "Since there's so much food at home, why did you say there wasn't enough?" I was really baffled. "There are so many people at home. How long do you think this food will last?" Cedric was like crazy. He grabbed my shoulders. "If you hadn't said there was no food at home, why would my parents and I have tried to bring some food back? As a result, we were robbed on the way. And my dad was pushed into the water and washed away by the flood. Do you know that?" I was stunned. Then I said coldly, "Cedric, if you keep talking so loudly, everyone in this building will know that we still have food at home. Just wait for them to come in and rob us, then we will all die." Cedric was at a loss for words. I looked at him. "It's your own incompetence. Don't blame me for everything." He slowly squatted on the ground, holding his head in pain. "Dad is dead. Eden, how can you be so cold-hearted? It was you who said there was no food at home. I asked you to take in Faith, but you refused. You said there was no food at home. It was all because of Faith." I sneered, walked to the room, took out my phone, and showed him the messages I saw last night. "Your Faith is now collaborating with murderers and running into other people's houses to loot. Go find her, let her bring that group of people over and rob all the food at home, then you'll be satisfied." Right? Cedric clearly didn't believe it. It's impossible. But when he looked at the messages in the group, his face turned pale. His phone had already run out of power and he had lost it, so he couldn't see them. 14. All day long, Cedric didn't say a word to me. He just sat on the sofa in a daze. Of course, he still ate as usual. Maybe he was really starving in the past few days. Even when Elise went over and asked him to hug her, he didn't seem to notice. I carried Elise back to the room, and there were a lot of messages in the building group again. Cyrus and his gang actually counted which households in the building often cooked and had stored food. It was obvious what they wanted to do. Fortunately, I had asked to buy food in the group before and said something about running out of water and food, so my house wasn't on the list they counted. At night, my mother-in-law groaned in pain. My mother-in-law had rheumatoid arthritis. Now that her illness had flared up, her joints were swollen. Cedric woke up with a start and ran over, saying that there was no medicine to treat my mother-in-law at home and that he was going out to exchange for some medicine. As he spoke, he took 3 packs of instant noodles and went out. Cedric was gone for 2 hours. At 8 o'clock in the evening, there was suddenly the sound of someone pounding on the door. Elise was so scared that she started crying. I quickly gave her a lollipop, turned on the animation on the phone, and let her watch it in the room, and she stopped crying. My mother-in-law stopped groaning and asked in a panic, "Eden, are they going to break the door and come in?" My palms were sweating, but I still said, "I'll go and have a look." I opened the peephole and saw that there was actually a group of people standing outside. The man standing in front was Cyrus. He was actually holding a chainsaw in his hand, but he didn't move. Next to him stood another man who was hitting the door with a chair. It seemed that he was tired of hitting the door, so he stopped and asked in confusion, "Cyrus, is there really stored food in this house? Don't open the door and find nothing, wasting our effort." Cyrus glanced at him. The man immediately pointed at the chainsaw in Cyrus's hand and changed the topic, saying, "Don't waste the electricity, there's nowhere to charge it now." Cyrus didn't say anything. Another man behind them said, "I counted the messages in the group before. This family asked to buy food. It seems that they have already run out of water and food." Cyrus carried the chainsaw and was about to leave. "What bad luck. Let's go to the next house." I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Just then, a woman's voice sounded. "Cyrus, wait a moment." I was shocked. It was Faith's voice. Then I heard Faith squeeze forward from behind and say to Cyrus, "I just heard a child crying inside. There's a child in this house. It must be from this family. There are people alive in this house, so there must be some food. I've been to her house before. She cooks by herself and has a child. There can't be no food. Maybe there's also some medicine." Cyrus's eyes lit up. "Are you sure?" Faith hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "I'm sure." Cyrus smiled. "Then I'll trust you this time." As he spoke, Cyrus picked up the chainsaw and turned it on. 15. Outside the door, there was the extremely harsh sound of the chainsaw. I tightly held the fruit knife, and my mind was in a mess. What should I do? If they really rushed in later, what should I do with Elise? It was Faith again. Just then, there was suddenly chaos outside the door. I stared closely at the peephole. It was Cedric. He tightly grabbed Faith's shoulders and couldn't believe it. "Faith, what have I done to you? How could you really lead this bunch of bastards to break into my house?" Faith was panicked. "Cedric, when did you come back? I thought you couldn't come back. I couldn't get through to you on the phone." As she spoke, Faith actually started crying. She slapped Cedric's shoulders hard. "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you for so long. Why didn't you come back? Do you know that Everyone outside the door was looking at them, even Cyrus. Before he could saw the door, he heard the commotion. After turning off the chainsaw, he looked at this scene, and his face was terribly gloomy. Cedric and Faith finally realized that something was wrong, especially Faith. There were tears all over her face. Suddenly, she woke up and quickly let go of Cedric. She looked at Cyrus in a panic. "Cyrus, he is." Cyrus pulled Faith over without saying a word and slapped her in the face. "You bitch. It's not enough for you to sleep with us brothers. You even flirt with others." As he spoke, Cyrus picked up the chainsaw and hit Cedric. "You bastard." Outside the door, there was a group fight. Cyrus's brothers punched and kicked Cedric without hesitation. Cedric hit his head on the ground and it was bleeding. After a while, he could only hug his head and wail in pain. Faith cried even more sadly. "Cyrus, please stop hitting him, please." After a while, Cyrus stopped. A brother beside him pointed at Cedric and said angrily, "Look at his dying appearance. I told you that this family has already run out of food, Cyrus. We've been deceived by this bitch." Cyrus stepped on Cedric's face heavily, then he dragged Faith towards the stairs. "Let's go." Cedric lay on the ground. It took him a long time to slowly get up and move to the doorknob. I opened the door and looked at him quietly. 16. In the living room, when they saw that Cedric was fine when he went out, but came back covered in blood and limping, my mother-in-law broke down and cried, "Cedric, what happened to you? How did you become like this?" Cedric had blood all over his head, and his clothes were also stained with blood. My mother-in-law supported Cedric and desperately asked me for help. "Eden, hurry up and stop Cedric's bleeding. Hurry up." I walked into the room. The master bedroom is the furthest from the front door. When I left just now, I deliberately turned up the sound of the animation on the phone and closed the door. Elise was very focused when watching this animation, so she didn't hear anything when she saw me come in. Elise raised her head. I smiled at her. "Have a good time." Elise smiled sweetly at me and continued to look down and watch the animation. I found the first aid kit and took out the hemostatic medicine and bandages. In the living room, I don't know if my mother-in-law was too anxious, but she started covering her chest and groaning violently. She looked like she was having difficulty breathing. Cedric was immediately worried, but he was in so much pain all over his body that he sat on the floor and couldn't stand up several times. He could only look at me for help. "Eden, quickly see what's wrong with Mom." I helped my mother-in-law to the guest room and let her lie down. I saw that my mother-in-law had cold sweat all over her head, her lips were pale, and she was trembling. She tightly grabbed my hand and said word by word, "Eden, you, Cedric, and Elise, you must be okay. You must survive." As she spoke, There were tears in her eyes. Actually, I could tell that my mother-in-law was probably not going to make it. When she was helped back by Cedric last night, she was like an eggplant beaten by frost, completely different from her energetic appearance before. I suddenly remembered that I was really afraid of her before, because my family was from the countryside. My mother-in-law always looked down on me when we were in love. She was picky about me, later, when we talked about getting married. My mother-in-law even threatened that when a son in the city gets married, there's no need for a bride price, and both sides will provide a house. My parents were depressed for a long time because of her words. In the end, they gave me most of their savings from their whole life and said that they really only had that much and they didn't want me to be looked down upon by my husband's family. Of course, I didn't take it. When a daughter gets married in the village, there's a bride price, otherwise, people will gossip. I planned to give it myself and let Cedric hand it over, saying that it was from him. When Cedric knew about it, he felt sorry for me and said that he would give it. He had saved some money and told me not to worry. I was really touched at that time and thought that he cared about me. Later, I realized that if he really cared about me, why didn't he do anything when my father-in-law and mother-in-law picked on me several times? He just stood up in the end and showed his magnanimity, making me grateful. It's a pity that I understood too late. Late at night, Elise fell asleep with even breaths. I turned on the flashlight and went to the living room. There was a candle lit in the living room, and the light was faint. Cedric's wounds were all bandaged. He had bled a lot, and I used a large amount of hemostatic medicine on the bleeding hole on his forehead. Besides, there was a lot of bleeding from his arms and thighs. The bones in his arms and thighs should be broken, at least, they were out of place, which made him unable to fall asleep at night. He stared at the ceiling with his eyes open. I walked over with a cup of medicine, and he drank it without thinking. Then he asked me, "How's Mom?" I said. It should be a recurrence of her old illness, which caused complications and made her have trouble breathing. She's out of breath. I looked at him. Suddenly, Cedric tried to stand up frantically, but he couldn't. He reached out his hand with tears streaming down his face and said, "Mom." After a while, Cedric grabbed my hand and pressed it tightly against his face, moaning in pain. "Eden, I only have you and Elise left. Mom and Dad are gone. Eden, I only have you." He cried so sadly. He was a grown man, and I had never seen him cry like this before. In the past, I actually felt sorry for him. Every time he came back from a business trip, I would ask him what time he would be home, and then I would cook the food he liked, wash and iron the clothes he would wear. In this family, he never needed to do anything, because I would prepare everything for him. I knew he worked hard, so I took care of everything for Elise from her childhood. I worked to earn money, took care of the child, and took care of him. I never complained, but now, looking at him crying so miserably, I was extremely calm inside. I was even a bit annoyed and disgusted that he had dirted my hand. I pulled my hand back and looked at him, saying, "No, you'll go and be with your parents soon." Cedric didn't seem to hear clearly and paused. "What?" I repeated it. Cedric suddenly panicked, grabbed my hand, and started trembling all over. "Eden, what are you talking about?" I looked at him and asked slowly, "How long do you think you can live?" 18. Cedric seemed to relax a bit and forced a smile. "Although I bled a lot and my body feels like it's falling apart, I have a feeling that I won't die." After a pause, he still held my hand tightly. "Eden, I really need to thank you. Thanks to you for preparing so much food. Look, you stocked up a lot of food and hemostatic medicine. You even bought a gas tank and a gas stove. Other people can't cook at home, but we can, with these things you prepared. We will definitely get through this, as long as we don't go out, and we have clean food and water. We won't starve to death. When the torrential rain stops and the flood recedes, we'll still be alive. Someone will definitely come to rescue us. We and Elise will definitely live well." But as he spoke, Cedric's voice suddenly became weak. The hand that was holding mine gradually relaxed. "Eden," there was sudden fear in Cedric's eyes. "Why do I feel that I have no strength at all? I was fine just now. Why can't I even lift my fingers now?" Not only that, but his voice also became weaker and weaker. It seemed that he was using all his strength to say a word. I still looked at him. Before I resigned, I worked in a hospital and knew something about medicine. I know how to make someone feel weak all over and even fall into a coma, while others don't. Cedric seemed to realize it too. "Eden, what did you give me to drink just now?" He seemed to want to back away, but he couldn't even lift a finger. I relaxed and sat on the sofa. After a pause, I asked calmly, "Cedric, what's your relationship with Faith?" Yesterday outside the door, I saw clearly the way he was pulling with Faith. I have eyes and can naturally see that he had already gotten together with Faith long ago. It wasn't just when I caught them having an affair in my previous life, it was much earlier. I smiled self-deprecatingly. "Even if you don't say it, I can guess." Faith once said that her ex-husband was her college classmate and they got married right after graduation, and Cedric, we had a conflict in the year he graduated. He disappeared for half a year and only came back. That was around the time Faith got married. When he came back, he hugged me and kept admitting his mistake, saying that he was in a bad mood because he couldn't find a job. He said he was sorry and asked me to forgive him. At that time, I was also irritable because of work, out of empathy. I understood him and forgave him. Faith's marriage lasted for 10 years. She got divorced a year ago and then went to work in Cedric's company. Cedric also told me that it was all a coincidence and that she was having a hard time, so he asked me to help her more. 19. I tied Cedric up with a rope and dragged him to the balcony. I opened the window, and the loud sound of the thunderstorm outside slapped against the window and the balcony. The raindrops hit his face. I placed a table under the window and carried him onto it. There was full of fear in Cedric's eyes. Eden, what are you going to do? Are you going to murder me? He seemed to want to question me loudly, but because he had no strength, he couldn't move his fingers, and his voice was so weak that it was completely drowned out by the sound of the rain. Even if I cheated, you can divorce me. What have I done to let you down? How could you want to kill me? There was pleading, confusion, and more anger in his words. I suddenly remembered that time. It was also thundering and lightning, and the weather was as bad as it is now. I was sleeping in a daze when I suddenly noticed that he got up. I was startled and heard him go outside and secretly let Faith in. We had a loud quarrel in the room. My father-in-law and mother-in-law lived next door, but they pretended not to hear. Eden, I won't let her stay outside. She's a woman. At this time, she won't be able to survive if she goes out. Say that again. I looked at him in disbelief. Cedric, either I'm in this house or she is. You choose. He remained silent. Then we started fighting. He pushed me off the windowsill. Faith seemed to be scared and screamed loudly. Elise woke up. When she saw me fall, she quickly came after me and also jumped off the windowsill. At that time, Cedric went over and comforted Faith. Time seemed to go back. Looking at Cedric in front of me, he was in a panic and tried to hold me. Eden, think about the child. We still have our child. Do you want Elise to grow up without a father? It was that sentence again. In my previous life, when I found out that he was having an affair with Faith and wanted to drive them out, Cedric said the sentence, and I softened my heart. How dare he say it again? I stretched out my foot and kicked him down. Cedric seemed to want to shout, but his voice was as weak as a kitten's meow in the loud thunderstorm, and he was so weak that he couldn't even move his fingers, even if he could swim. So what? I took a step closer, watched him fall into the flood, and then calmly closed the window. 20. When I returned to the room, my daughter was still asleep. 3 days passed, and my daughter seemed to remember and asked me, Mom, where's Dad? I said, he went out. My daughter didn't notice anything and just said, oh. After all, in her eyes, her father was away from home all year round, and she was already used to it. The torrential rain lasted for a month, and I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. In 3 more days, the rain should stop, but on the day when the rain was supposed to stop, it was still raining. The thunder and lightning seemed to be getting worse, and I couldn't help but feel anxious. Another week passed, and the rain was still falling, showing no signs of stopping. The flood had reached the 11th floor, exceeding the 10th floor, which was the highest floor in my previous life. In the flood, there were more and more corpses. I couldn't sleep well at night. I didn't know if the rain would stop. Would we still be doomed to be drowned in the end? The flood seemed to be able to destroy everything. I watched a tall building not far away being destroyed and collapsing in the flood. Elise knew nothing about it and still asked to watch cartoons every day. Looking at her being so happy, I thought that if these were really the last days, it was not bad for her to live like this. Elise, even if it's the end of the world, you're still so happy. Mom, what is the end of the world? Elise suddenly became nervous. Mom, are you going to leave me? No, I won't leave you. Elise smiled happily. Then I'll go wherever you go. Mom, I choked up and replied, Mom knows. In my previous life, I fell off the windowsill, and she jumped down after me. In the torrential rain, she kept falling and was still smiling at me. I will never forget that. After a month and a half, the flood kept rising, and there was no signal. I always stayed in the room with Elise. Besides the sound of the rain, the sound of someone knocking on the door gradually became weaker. In the middle of the night, I suddenly heard a strange sound and woke up with a start. It seemed that someone downstairs was knocking on the ceiling. 3 times, I turned on the flashlight. Elise didn't wake up, and there seemed to be a sound outside the front door, also 3 times. 21, I thought for a while and got up and went to the front door. Before, I blocked the front door with a table and a sofa. Now I really heard someone knocking on the door. The sound was exactly the same as the sound of someone knocking on the ceiling downstairs. I climbed onto the table and opened the peephole to look outside. There were 3 people standing outside the door. They were the residents on the 27th floor downstairs. I knew that a family lived downstairs, including grandparents, parents, and a little boy. We occasionally met in the elevator, and the little boy would greet Elise friendly. This time, the grandparents and the father came. The father stood at the stairway to keep watch, and the grandparents stood at my door. The grandmother was holding a black bag in her hand. The 3 of them looked very anxious. The father turned back and asked, "Is there still no response?" The grandmother said, "Don't be in a hurry. At this time, they must be very cautious." The father was silent for a while and then asked, "Mom, are you sure there's antipyretics in their house?" The grandmother said, "Their Elise is in poor health. Her mother must have prepared medicine. If there's no medicine, we have no other way. Damien has been having a fever for so many days and is even talking nonsense." Damien was that little boy. There was a moment of silence outside the door, and then there was a uniform knock on the door. They lived downstairs from me, so it was no wonder they knew there were still people in my house. I thought for a while and said, "What's the matter?" The grandmother outside immediately said, "Elise's mom, it's like this. Our little grandson Damien has been having a fever. We want to come and exchange some antipyretics with you. We don't have anything good now, just some sweet potatoes. If you really have antipyretics, can you spare some for us? As long as the child can survive, you can tell us what you need. If we have it, we will definitely exchange it with you." I replied, "Wait a moment." After a while, I went to the room and took out a bottle of antipyretics. Then I said to them, "All of you retreat to the bottom of the stairway." The 3 of them were overjoyed and immediately retreated to the bottom of the stairway. I quickly put out the medicine bottle and then closed and locked the door. After a while, Damien's father came and took the medicine bottle, overjoyed. "Mom and Dad, Damien will be saved." Damien's grandmother also wiped away her tears and said to the door, "Elise's mom, what about these sweet potatoes?" I said, "You can take them back. I don't need them for now." They thanked me repeatedly and then left. It was quiet outside the door again. 22. This torrential rain lasted for 2 months. 2 months later, on the day the rain stopped, a helicopter finally appeared in the sky. A drone was shouting among the buildings, "All residents, please go to the rooftop. The country will distribute food and drinking water to you." Even so, there were still frequent riots in the building. A week later, soldiers came to the rooftop, and there was a knock on the door of my house. I opened the door, and there were 5 or 6 people outside, all wearing military uniforms. They were carrying a plastic bag, which contained food and water, and they were distributed to me. I didn't take it. Instead, I said, "I still have some food and medicine at home, and I can donate them." The leading soldier was taken aback and subconsciously asked, "How much do you have?" 2 days ago, I put all the things at home in the living room, except for the things that Elise and I needed. The rest could be donated. The soldiers looked at these things. They didn't ask me why I didn't distribute them before. They seemed to understand everything and instead said to me, "Ma'am, you've done a great job. In this critical situation, the country hopes that you kind residents will, above all, take care of yourselves." He also said, "We will keep your donation confidential and won't leak any of your information. Are you willing to donate?" I replied, "I am willing." I said, "There's a Cyrus in our building." The soldier immediately said, "Someone has already reported him. The Cyrus gang has been arrested by us. Please don't worry." Elise had bled so much, and I was really angry. I had a big fight with her and completely broke up with her. It was more than half a month later that the flood gradually receded. On the day the signal was restored, my mother called. When she heard my voice, she cried, "Eden, it's good that you're still alive. How's Elise?" I said, "She's okay." The city's recovery was very slow. My parents asked me to take Elise and go live in the countryside for a while, and I thought it was a good idea. After the traffic resumed, I left home with Elise. When I did, I saw the grandmother downstairs with her grandson on the stairs. They insisted on inviting me to have a meal. And after thinking about it, I agreed. The meal prepared by the family downstairs was particularly sumptuous. Damien's grandmother also told me why their family was able to survive this disaster. His grandfather sells roasted sweet potatoes. Before the disaster came, our family happened to stock up on a batch of sweet potatoes. At that time, I even scolded him for buying too many. Who would have thought that we were able to survive thanks to these sweet potatoes? We also owe it all to you. If it weren't for that bottle of antipyretics you gave us, our Damien might have. Damien's father insisted on transferring 100,000 yuan to me, but I declined. Damien's grandmother asked, "What about the other people in your family?" I said, "They lived in another old community. It was flooded a long time ago. Only Elise and I survived." Damien's grandmother grabbed my hand and said, "From now on, we are family. If anything happens, come to us as soon as possible." During the meal, Damien's father said, "That Cyrus gang was really abominable. If it weren't for them, many families might have survived. Fortunately, they have all been arrested. People like them deserve the death penalty," Damien's mother said, and that Faith, she pretended to be pitiful to deceive others into opening the door. "I heard that in the end, she was sold by Cyrus to another gang and was tortured to death. She really deserved it. We were grateful to have survived the disaster." People who are grateful will cherish their remaining lives and the people around them more after a disaster. "I took Elise back to my hometown, and my parents were already smiling and waiting for us at the entrance of the village." The end.